Welcome in, race fans, to another Saturday night production here at Freaky Fast Broadcasting as we pick up into the fifth week of the NAISCC Cup Series, and we're going to the Tricky Triangle here at Pocono alongside David Medina. I'm Brandon Robinson. This is the Xtreme Mountains 250. And David, I know you're usually out here racing on Saturday nights, but we certainly appreciate you joining us up here in the booth. Now, you know these drivers better than we do. What's your take so far through the first 4 weeks that you have been able to race with these guys? And what are you looking forward to most calling these guys here at Pocono?
Well, I appreciate that, and glad to be up here in the booth with you tonight as well. So, yeah, these guys here, there's a good group, fast group of drivers in this league here, and Mark Whitley, a name up there that always seems to be ringing week in and week out. So I'm expecting a lot of good things for him, and Tom Simchek, another driver out there that's been putting down some quick laps as well. So, really looking forward to see how these guys handle this tricky triangle.
And last week, the 28 car of Brian Johnson. It took him 4 races, but the 28 is on the board and locked in for the playoffs after last week taking the Daytona road course, which was just phenomenal for these guys. That was a good broadcast to call. It took a lot of work. Shout out to our producer, Robert. It's not easy to keep up with those Daytona road courses. Danny Cochran, the 2 machine, he's coming off a solid 9th place last week. He finds himself sitting nicely in 11th place in points coming here to Pocono. He finished 5th here last season. So Danny Cochran, keep our eyes on him tonight at Pocono here. Of course, before we get started with any of those festivities, we'd like to give a shout out to one of our sponsors, the SimBox store. If you're ready to take your simulation games to the next level, grab one of these handcrafted button boxes today. The attention to detail is second to none, and it's built with the gamer in mind. You can use it for more than just racing. American Truck Simulator, Flight Simulator, Farm and Train Simulator, you get the point. Now introducing the iFlag, the electronic flag indicator utilizing SimHub software. Check out the SimBox store on eBay or Facebook for more details. SimBox store, you really push our buttons. So Dave, as we take a look at some of the times here, I believe we're getting ready to go into the qualifying session. I'll have to pull that part up, but right now it looks like Mark Whitley with a 53.5 7 seconds up there in that top spot in the 77 car. Who's your driver here tonight? Of course, again, jumping on board here in the broadcast booth last minute. You've been in the Discord all week, though. I'm sure these guys have been sharing times. Who's your favorite coming in here tonight at Pocono?
Yeah, it's hard to argue to go against Mark Whitley. He's just shown tremendous speed. Almost every week we just see him up front. So I won't be surprised to see Mark Whitley running up front. Some of the other guys up there that I won't be surprised to see up there is looking at probably James. Might be able to see him running up front. But this track is one of those interesting tracks that draft comes into play coming off turn 1 and coming off turn 3 as well. So draft to come into play wherever it works the draft well, not overheat their tires. We could have a very surprising person take the lead.
Of course, you speak of James. That is the 20 car of James Trammell. Kyle Rochelle right now on his lap, taking that top spot from Brian Johnson. Mark Whitley falls to 3rd. Tom Senchak in the early going inside the top 4. We'll be patient. We'll wait for the official qualifying as these names and these times will continue to fluctuate. But Dave, they call this the tricky triangle for a reason. There's that dog leg, if you will, turn number 2. Can you talk to us a little bit about why that spot specifically on this track is the most difficult part of this track?
Yeah, that's a very good topic there. So you're coming off turn 1, you can get to that corner right. You get a really good long run coming into that tunnel turn there. And if you don't hit it right, it's really easy to have that car drift out to the wall. That wall will come out and grab you really quick. So getting through that turn, you can make a lot of speed there and a lot of time there. You can also lose it as well. So I've seen some cars get have some issues there and get tight and smack the wall. I've seen some cars that also got loose try to keep it off the wall there. So I think we'll see some action there as this race goes on.
Yeah, not to be dramatic here, but I think if there was ever the term to be used in NASCAR, no risk it, no biscuit, it would be here at Pocono. It would be in turn 2 right there. Because like you said, Dave, if you take that turn cautiously, or if you're just trying to work through it and find that groove and you're a little bit slow, after that turn, there's a huge backstretch before going into turn 3. So if you're not on point there on turn 2, you can lose a lot of time. And then if you risk it and you're going through there too fast, you're certainly going to smack the wall, damage your car, lose track position. So something to keep our eye on here tonight as qualifying session is over. It does look like Kyle Rochelle is going to take that top spot. We'll be keeping our eye out on turn 2.
Yeah, I'll be keeping an eye on Tom Simtek too. He had the fastest lap in practice and starting here the third. So I look forward to seeing him getting up there and working his way to the front. So we'll see if he's able to carry over some of that speed from practice into the race.
As you guys see the qualifying results there, this is the NAISCC Cup Series. We are at Pocono. We'll go through the official grid here. Kyle Rochelle taking that top spot. Brian Johnson sharing that front row with him on the outside. Mark Whitley in third. Tom Senchak fourth. It's going to be Nick Crawford in fifth. Ethan Smith in sixth. Max Foner, that Toyota, the lone Toyota in the top 10. He's going to be on the inside of row 4 in seventh. James Trammell in eighth. Your pick of the night here, Danny Cochran in ninth, and Aaron Crowley outside the top 10. David, why don't you take us to 20th?
All right. So looking at the 11th position, we have Vincent Zaraya starting at the 11th position with Patrick Hernandez starting on the 12th position. Moving on to the 13th, we have Trevor Earhart, and then moving on to Cedric Hunter taking the 14th spot. Follow that by Sean Hustler, and then Jesse Thornlock starting in the 16th position, and then Dakota Munoz starting in 17th, and Maurice starting in 18th. Follow that by Dylan Waterman starting in 19th, and then Gregory taking up the 20th spot.
All right, that's going to be your top 20 drivers right there. And outside the top 20, Alex Light, 21st. Ryan Ferraro in that 22nd position. Thomas Green, Jonathan Pittman in 24th. Mike Kaczynski in 25th. Ry Lewis, 26th. Ryan Bird in 27th. And it's going to be Adam Westfield in that 28th spot. In the 88 Toyota. He's going to be sharing that row all by himself. And right now, Pocono can be one of those awkward tracks, David. If you're at a super speedway, you have the ability to start from the back and almost feel safe and feel like you could put together a strategy. At a short track, anything can happen, whether you're in the front of the pack or in the back. But here on tracks like Pocono, I think, number one, you don't want to lose the draft, just like a super speedway, but you certainly don't want to lose any track position here because I feel like this could be one of those tracks that really gets away from you.
Yeah, absolutely. You hit the nail right on the head on that. Getting a good start and working your way up early while the cars are grouped together is really what you need to do here. Like you said, you fall back. It's real easy to get a gap between the first pack and the second pack. And what's really going to be interesting to watch is when they go through that tunnel turn, it's side by side. That's going to be a tricky area for those guys to get around. Running side by side. So it'll be fun to watch how these guys handle that. And side draft, all that stuff comes into play at this track.
Yeah, and I'm going to have to start cementing that term into my head. I cannot call it a dog leg anymore. It is a tunnel turn. There we go, the tunnel turn. Turn 2, maybe I'll just reference it as that. We see the pace truck now has made its way out onto the track along with the drivers here tonight. And again, Kyle Rochelle in the 1 car, going to be on the inside. Brian Johnson, he's got that meme paint scheme out there. He did pretty well last week at Daytona Road Course. He was right there at the end. The 77 of Mark Whitley we talked about there. Right before Johnson and Rochelle came in, he had really good practice laps, Mark Whitley did, and he's going to be on the inside of row 2. Pace car off. It is green flag racing and a huge jump from that 28 car of Brian Johnson. That high side, David, right now into turn 1, picking up steam.
They are picking up speed, and Kyle just didn't get a good start there, so he's already falling back to fighting for the fourth position as we go into turn one, and almost 3 wide here because they thought Better was probably a good move here early, but they kind of stacked up some of the cars behind them.
Yeah, and actually 3 wide, a little bit behind them. So those guys staying 3 wide through turn one. We come across this first stretch before going into that tunnel turn, turn 2. Brian Johnson, still the race leader. Ethan Smith up 4 spots already on lap 1. You see the 8 car get a little bit loose there, David, which whether your tires are old or new, most certainly might see some guys struggling through that tunnel turn.
Yeah, and under the first lap, these tires are, they don't have a whole lot of grip yet. So your first lap is really getting your tires up to speed and up to temperature before you really start getting some grip. But I tell you, that 28 car has taken off from the field and has put some distance on him. But it's going to be interesting to watch to see how well does he take care of his tires. Does he have too big of a lead out there? As these guys might get sorted out as the 15 makes a little bit of contact there with the 77. Good save by him though.
Yeah, we got another car now down on the infield. He hits the wall there. I don't think that'll bring out a caution here on lap 2. He's down on the infield. Didn't really. Nope. It is going to bring out our first caution of the night, David.
Yeah, it's a little surprising that the caution did come out, considering he stayed off the track. But it's actually a fortunate break for him because he would have definitely lost the pack.
We see the 94. And really it started in front of him. I think you were calling it, David. I don't remember who it was. It might have been Kyle Rochelle, actually, or maybe the 11 of Nick Crawford. But they got loose, and what happens is that's an accordion effect right there. You see somebody get loose in front of you, and if you're a car or two behind them, you can see it visually, you lift. But unfortunately, those guys that are 3, 4, 5 cars behind, they don't really know what's going on in front of you.
Yeah, exactly. Things happen so fast, especially when you get behind cars. And if you're following somebody really close, your vision is really obstructed, so it's kind of hard to see it. Yeah, but you try to take maneuver, to get away from the accident. You get on that apron, there's a lot of dirt down there, and you lose a lot of grip, and really easy to get that car to slide out from underneath you.
And that's what we saw there. So an early caution here at Pocono on lap 2. Now that's going to settle in Brian Johnson, but I think what I was going to bring up before that caution was Brian Johnson had such a good lead early on, David, because the cars that were behind him, I mean, 2nd through 6th, those guys were 3 wide. They were fighting each other. Once that starts settling down, these cars can start working together, use the draft, and be able to try to catch that 28 of Brian Johnson.
Yeah, and it'd be interesting to see on this restart if these guys take note of that how much time they were losing to the leader, racing side by side, and maybe give up a little spots so they can keep that leader in check and close to them versus racing side by side, lap after lap, turn after turn.
Which, of course, we know is so hard to do, David. It's very hard to be patient, especially at the beginning of a race. Everybody's on your bumper and your doors, and even if you feel comfortable with falling in line, usually the cars that are around you don't feel that way, which is why we saw such a huge pack there. But you're absolutely right. These guys, if you don't want to see the 28 car up there by himself in the clean air, uncontested, while meanwhile you're going 3 wide through turn 2.
Yeah, and it goes back to what we talked about at the start of the race, is that you want to try and get as much position as possible at the start of the green flag, at the drop of the green flag. So yeah, to sit there and say, try and be a little bit patient is easy to do, but when you're in the car and you know that you got to get all the positions you can as early as you can, it's a little bit harder to put your foot off the pedal and let somebody go by and try to follow in line, especially when you have fresh tires.
David, the 5th week of the season, these guys have been able to settle in now. Anybody who was a rookie coming in for the first time with these guys have pretty much been able to see where they stack up against the competition. More importantly, we got the road course out of the way last week. This is the week where a lot of these guys are really going to have to start finding traction throughout the season and really get a jump start on the rest of the season. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh yeah, definitely. The road course, last week was a challenge for a lot of drivers. But you're right. Now is the time to, start settling in and being consistent and start making your way and getting some of those points back. And just kind of want to bring up the note there. We had, some of the cars there in the back half of the field that pitted a little early. So I'm assuming they probably just, topped off on fuel because we got that stage run that we're going to be running to. So be curious to see how that works out for them.
Yeah, that is right. We're back to stage breaks. Technically, we did have a stage race last week. The top 5 drivers on that specific lap did pick up the bonus points, but we did not bring the field to a stop there, David. We didn't throw the caution out there. Was that something that was talked about pretty early on into that week?
Yeah, it was something that was made known to the drivers pretty early on. So going into it, you knew pretty much that how that race was going to go. That we were going to continue on and not have a restacking of the field.
Some communication throughout. That's one thing you like to see in a league, especially this big. It seems like so far it's very easy for these leagues to kind of fold when you're 4, 5, 6 weeks in. Right now, we are just 1 or 2 cars short of making 30. So it seems like right now, everybody that's locked in at the beginning of this season is still here, which I know means a lot, David, when you're a league admin or an owner and you're trying to recruit people. And when you finally get that good group of drivers, it means all the world.
It does, being comfortable racing around, drivers when you know what they're, the way they drive and how they're going to handle the tracks and stuff like that. Definitely makes it for really good racing and stuff. So it's good to see all these guys, week in and week out coming out and filling the field up.
So the lights will go off this time by these cars getting stacked up 2 by 2. This is the Xtreme Mountains 250. You're watching it live on Freaky Fast Broadcasting alongside David Medina. I'm Brandon Robinson. We appreciate you guys tuning in. The official pace truck should turn off this time around as they go through turn 2. And you really get a good sense of just how big this track is underneath these caution laps.
Yeah, it's a 2.5 mile track, so it's a very large track. So that's a great thing about this track is you get a little bit of everything. You get the super speedway feel with the long stretches and the high speeds and the side draft, and then the turns where you got to slow down some. But the track's pretty flat, so you get the braking and the hard turns into the corners and stuff. So it's a really fun track. I really enjoy racing on this kind of track and on this track in particular.
Pace car set to go off. It's going to be up to the 28 car of Brian Johnson, who had a good restart last time. But right now, Kyle Rochelle said, hey, I got another shot at this. I'm going to make it count. He was on the outside. He's got the jump start now going down into turn 1. We'll see if he has the 28 clear going down into turn 1. Nope, the 28 getting a push by the 00 of Ethan Smith.
Yeah, much better start, but that one car, he didn't get such a great start on the first initial green flag drop, but much better start here and followed in the second. Wasn't able to hold off the 28 coming into turn 1, but he's much closer, so I don't see the 28 maybe taking off as we saw, him do at the drop of the green flag.
Through turn 2 onto this last backstretch, if you will, and I'm curious to see if this was a natural change or if somebody had came across the radio and said, hey, stop going 4 wide. We have 1 lap in on this restart. And David, you see mostly single file up front and through the field, only 2 wide versus what we saw on that first start.
Yeah, these guys on this restart here definitely spread out a little bit quicker than what we saw, on the initial green flag drop. So good job on these guys. And there probably was some, some chatter in the chat there about, just kind of settling in and let it play out a little bit. So good job of these guys by doing so.
As you see the 15 car on your screen right now, unfortunately, I don't see the 15 in my live timing. There is the 24 car of Trevor Earhart, or the 25, excuse me, the 2 car behind him, Danny Cochran. He's got James Trammell back there. James, back 4 spots in the early going. He's back in 12th. But Jesse Thomack, I believe is how you say that name. He's up 7 spots. David up to 9th.
Yeah, we got the 2 into the wall. Going to the outside, inside wall, and joined by the 25.
Yeah, and that's going to breed another caution for us. Good call there live. You see the 2 and the 25 actually stuck to each other there. Almost Denny Hamlin and Bowman-esque there. right there on the front stretch. Let's go ahead and take a look at the replay here with Freaky Fast Broadcasting coming out of turn 3 onto the front stretch there. You see the blue car right there got a little bit caught up, which meant the green car, the 25, got
Yeah,
his bumper hooked on Danny Cochran, David.
yeah, I think that was Jesse Thornlock that made contact with the wall coming off that turn there, and kind of bounced off a little bit and got in front of that 25, and then 25 made some contact with the 2. So just one of those tricky turns.
Yeah, it really is. And this track, David, all three of these cars, or excuse me, all three of these turns here, turn 1 and 2 probably has the most banking. The tunnel turn might be the most difficult to master, but 3 and 4 is the flattest part of this track. And I think that might be something that we see here as this race progresses. Coming out of turn 4, it's a little bit flatter. You're going to have to take care of your rear end. You're going to have to feather that throttle. And we saw it right there. A couple of cars getting loose off turn 4.
Yeah, you're on top of it. Once again, you hit the nail on the head. I ran some practice laps here before coming up to the broadcast, and that's exactly where I was having issues there as well. Was coming off the last turn there. It's just like you said, it's just so flat, and you get on the throttle too early, and the car will want to drift or you will want to kick out the rear end there, and then you're chasing it, trying not to get into the wall, and you're either going to check up, which isn't good for the car behind you, or you're going to bounce off that wall, which also isn't good for the car behind you.
Yeah, exactly right. And we're not 10 laps in, and we're already up to our second caution of the night. Now, the first one could be thrown at aggressive driving from the start, but the second one, I think you can chalk it up as just a simple racing incident there. These guys now starting to settle in just a little bit, but we just talked about that turn 3 and turn 4. So we'll give them some slack on this one. We'll get them lined back and get them going green. David, when you start a race like this, or any driver for that matter, maybe especially for the guys that are up front, when you're not even in double-digit laps and you're already under 2 cautions, does the frustration start in, or are you actually maybe okay with it? It still allows you to take a couple of breathers here at the beginning. Maybe the nerves are still there, and it kind of allows you to deal with them.
Well, I think if you had issues early on, then you're okay with the cautions because it's going to help you with the restacking and re-racking of the field, and maybe able to gain some of those positions back. But for the leaders and stuff like that, they want this thing to stay green so they can try and put some distance on people. So I think you probably have a mixture of emotions between the drivers up and down the field.
Tonight's race being brought to you by Track Racer. Track Racer has the cutting-edge design and engineering to give you that competitive edge, offering race rigs, flight simulators, accessories, monitor stands, and now offering wheels from SimCube. Track Racer has everything you need to begin or complete your rig today. So between Track Racer and SimBox, we got it all. Don't forget to use code FreakyFastBroadcasting at checkout, FFB there, and save yourself a little bit of coin on checkout. Now, back to the racing here, Pocono. We just talked about it, 10 laps in-ish, 2 cautions in. Drivers will continue to settle in. Right now, Brian Johnson still the race leader, albeit Kyle Rochelle with a little bit of a better restart there. But I think, David, we saw just how strong that inside line is here at a track like Pocono.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting track to do. And I did want to bring up one point and something to keep an eye on. We've talked about the drafting on this thing. So the 25 car kind of got, when these guys got single file, he kind of got stuck on the inside and dropped several positions before he was able to find a spot to get up back into the draft. And so something to keep an eye on is to how fast these guys get it sorted out and who gets hung out and how far back do they fall.
The Xtreme Mountains 250, the 5th week of this Cup Series here with NAISCC. I don't remember the exact count, but this league's been around for a while. They're very established. They know how to put on a season. We're seeing it here tonight. Of course, a couple of rough starts here, but just going on through the entire season, we've seen some really, really good racing. If you missed Daytona Road Course, go back and look at the replay on our YouTube at Freaky Fast Broadcasting. It was seriously some premier road course, racing with the stock cars. I think we're going to go green this time around. We're going through turn one down this big front stretch here, if you will. Of course, the front stretch being the start and finish line. So this is almost like there's almost like an A and a B here, David.
Yeah, you got the coming off that where the green flag is, coming off 3, going. That's pretty much the long stretch there. And then you go into turn 1, and you have another long stretch, probably the longest stretch, second longest stretch out of the whole track. So it's really fun to race in those corners there because of the fact that draft helps you out so much. You can really get a good run on the car in front of you. But the question is what do you do? What are you able to do with that? Are you able to go inside and gain that position? So these guys really do a fantastic job in maneuvering their cars and being able to get through the turns and stuff without really pressing each other.
Yeah, and Pocono being one of those tracks as we get ready to go green flag racing, it is once again Brian Johnson, Kyle Rochelle going to drag race down that front stretch. But Pocono being one of those tracks where corner exit is going to be everything. We touched base on it at the beginning of the broadcast. You do not want to lose the draft. You do not want to have a bad corner exit, or else you are going to lose time and places. Right now, the 28 car side by side with Kyle Rochelle in the 1. Kyle with a nice push from the 8 car. That's Tom Senchek. Can they get it going? The 11 on the inside, David decides to drop down low.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised by that move, and as we were just talking about, you can see him already losing almost two spots here. So a little interesting that he decided to pull out there.
Yeah, that's Nick Crawford in the 11. He drops back down to 8th, and we actually saw a couple of drivers do that. I'm wondering if that was maybe strategy. They may be trying to fall back, but of course, a little dangerous game when you play that at a track like Pocono. You certainly don't want to get wrapped up in a mess trying to get back into the line. You can't continue to stay down low, or else you're just going to lose the field. But right now, the 2 guys that aren't worried about that, David, are the 28 of Brian Johnson and the 1 of Kyle Rochelle.
Yeah, those 2 guys up front just been nailing the restarts here, since we've started, and just doing a phenomenal job in singling out. These guys up in the first 5, 6 positions have done a really good job of getting single file pretty early, and they're racing each other, but not racing each other really hard yet, which is good to see. But we see the 31 kind of drift up a little bit up there and allowing the 11 to be good on the good side. But without the draft, I don't think he'll be able to hang on to that.
Now, a driver that sticks out to me right now as I'm going through my lifetime, Thomas Green in the 31 Toyota. He has jumped up 16 spots, David. He's found himself inside the top 10. He's running 7th right now, and I'm not sure if that had to do with a handful of cars maybe coming down, like you said, under caution, trying to get the fuel to be able to run to the end of that stage. But nonetheless, track position is track position. And right now, the 31 car is sitting nice and pretty in 7th.
Yeah, we were talking about there in this last caution about, what these guys' emotions were about the cautions. Well, I can tell you the 31 is probably pretty happy with the cautions we've seen, so far this race, because he's made up so many positions with these cars being, packed up and some guys going down in pit road and stuff. So great job of that 31 car, sitting in the top 10 position, and great mover. I mean, he's one of our biggest movers so far in this race. Great job by him. So we'll see how he's able to do. Hopefully he didn't use up the tires. Doesn't look like it. He's been able to keep those guys up front. Got a 15 in the 01 running side by side here. 15 looking inside. See, he'll be able to hold it here. We get close coming off the turn there, going up the long stretch, but the 15 is going to end up having to fall back in line behind the 01.
Yeah, and he does. Sorry about that, David. My mic was muted, but we were almost calling that in sync there. I wish somebody would have been able to hear just how close that was as far as what I was trying to say and what you said. The 31 car now right there on the back bumper of the 15 of Vincent Sora. That's our biggest mover so far. Thomas Green, Aaron Kralik in the 01 was able to fend off Vincent Sora. Ethan Smith now, he's up 2 spots into 4th, right behind Tom Senchek, who's been able to find a spot in that 8 car. He tried giving Kyle Rochelle a big of a push as he could, but David, right now, Brian Johnson winning every restart and has a little bit of a gap forming between himself and that number 1 car.
Yeah, I mean, just a phenomenal job. You can't talk enough about the job he's done on those restarts, even from the beginning of the race. So just and then no surprise, he's a phenomenal driver, and we see the one car getting a run on him and going on the inside. So we'll see if he's going to be able to make this pass here. So he's got kind of like the preferred line on entry, but we'll see how he's able to make the stick coming off the turn.
Yeah, not able to clear it just yet as these guys come across this long stretch. It is Brian Johnson, still the race leader. The one car of Kyle Rochelle going to have to check back up in front of the 8 car of Tom Senchek. So a little bit of an early peak there by the one car, but David, just like we see on so many tracks, that midline to outside line, if you run it, you can carry the momentum to be able to keep your position and if not gain a position.
Yeah, that is correct. And one thing that's interesting also about the turn one is that there is a bump. If you run a little bit on the higher line and then you don't hit that bump correctly, it will upset your car and kind of shoots it to the outside. I haven't really seen that with the guys running up front, but it'll be something to keep an eye on to see. Because all it takes is just missing your mark a little bit, and you could end up getting close to that wall and really have to check up to avoid that wall.
You see the 99 car, that's Dylan Walterman rocking the freaky fast broadcasting on the hood, and that, I might say, is a beautiful car. He's sitting back there in 12th right now, but another big mover. He's up 7 spots. Now, right there behind him, David, a car who has struggled right now, the 77 of Mark Whitley. He's dropped 11 spots, finding himself in 14th.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised by that. I mean, we got a long race to go, so maybe he'll be able to rebound and get back up there. But Mark Whitley's is a really good driver. I've seen him race many times and raced with him a few times. So just really surprised to see him struggling this early on. But like I said, it's early on. We're only 18 laps into the race, so we'll see what he does to try and work his way back up.
That's right, lap 18, about to be 19 here. We've seen 2 cautions early on. Ever since then, though, we've been green flag racing. We do have a stage coming up. David, I'm not too sure what lap that is. If we could find that out through the Discord, just so, and we'll get that to you guys watching at home. That way, when we start talking about stage breaks and pit strategy and what the fuel window looks like, we'll be able to get that over to you guys. But right now, I don't think anybody's worried about that stage break. Of course, David, still early on in the race. We're single file for the most part. We got a couple of guys fighting mid-pack side by side, but it seems like after those 2 cautions, we truly have started to settle in.
Yeah, they have settled in. If I'm not mistaken, I believe it's somewhere around lap 40 is their stage break. And if I remember correctly as well, they can run about 37 to 40 laps on the tank of fuel. So we'll see how these guys play out the strategy. But I'll tell you, this first group of 10 cars have really spread out and single filed and kind of separated themselves from the second pack.
Well, thanks, David. Thanks, Robert. He was in our ear as well. Lap 40 going to be that first stage break. And David, you talked about it when that first caution came out, and the second one as well. You had talked about some cars pitting, and of course the viewers at home might say, well, hey, we're only 2-3 laps in. But what that does is they don't have to come down now on lap 35, 36, 37. They know that they can make it to the end of that first stage.
Yeah, and I think that's what's kind of playing out with some of these cars that are just laying back a little bit and riding around behind some other cars, utilizing that draft to get the best mileage out of their fuel tanks to try and stretch it as far as they can. Yeah, I think that these guys play a lot of strategy, and racing with them, a few weeks that I have raced with them, they are very smart on always thinking, even right from the drop of the green flag, as to what their strategy is going to be.
On board with the 51 Max Phoner, you see from the roll cage cam there, such an awesome camera to be able to climb inside these cockpits with these drivers. You see the 30 car in front of them there running that inside line. Not enough room to really get between those cars, David, but with this setup with the Cup cars, you can certainly side draft with one another, especially at a track like Pocono.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely one of those things you can use to try and just seal that run that you get on the car. So these long straightaways like we talked about coming off turn 3, that's the longest straightaway there, and you can get a good run on somebody about midway, right around the check flag mark, and then if you can go inside and utilize the put your right front corner panel to the other car's left rear corner panel, you can slow them down, and it helps you slingshot right past.
Oh, and we got the 99 car, the freaky fast broadcasting driver that we highlighted a few laps ago. That's Dylan Walterman, and that is a hard lick there to bring out our third caution. Wow, that's a big one right there. You see the damage on the front end. We'll go ahead and take a look at the replay, see what we can see. He's right there on that outside line, David. See if he gets a little bit loose coming off of this corner exit. Oh, that is
Yeah.
unfortunate right there, David. You see the car on the inside, and I'm not too sure if the 99 was coming down or if the other car, I'm not too sure who that was, if they were just coming up or a little bit of both. But either way, that's a pretty big lick for the 99.
Yeah, that's definitely a hard hit on the inside wall there, and we have our first modified looking vehicle. But fortunately for him, he's got a fast repair to be able to get that car fixed back up and get back on the track. But unfortunate, we're only 22 laps in, and he's having to use that already. And I believe that that contact might have been with Jesse Thornlock.
Yeah, going back to the quick repairs, though, you're absolutely right. We're only about midway through the first stage, and if you can prevent it, you'd like to keep that fast repair for a little bit later in the race. And really, no matter what track you're at, short track speedway or 2.5 mile of Pocono, you really want to be able to save that, because the later this race gets, the more aggressive drivers get for the track position. So, David, you're absolutely right. Good point there. The 99 car able to come down pit road, get the car stitched up, but that's going to be it for the rest of the race.
Yeah, and that's probably going to change the way he attacks his track now, knowing that he doesn't have that safety net anymore, being able to repair his vehicle back to the original form. So he's going to have to be a lot more cautious when he's around other vehicles, and trying to make sure that he's clear of being able to make these passes. We see these guys coming down pit road.
Yeah, now when that caution came out, Kyle Rochelle actually was anointed the leader. So he was up there all by himself, and I think he wasn't too sure, or maybe he is absolutely sure of what pit strategy he wants, but he saw the 28 and the 15 and everybody else behind him come down pit road. So a handful of drivers coming down, lap 22 out of 40. That 40th lap, we're going to take a stage break. It's going to be a race-controlled thrown caution. These guys will be able to come down pit road. We'll line them back up, and we'll finish the race that way. But right now, I would assume, and I'm really surprised, David, that not all the lead car laps came down.
Yeah, I think some of this might be that we've had some early cautions, and so they've been able to probably shut off their engines and coast quite a bit and save some fuel. So whether they've saved enough or we'll be able to save enough to make it will be interesting to see there, or if there is another caution to decide to pit at that point. But I'm assuming that that's probably what's playing in some of their minds, is with all the cautions they've had, they've been able to save some additional fuel.
Yeah, and going around the track under caution, there's two ways of doing it. You can reach over and shut off your ignition. You can put your clutch in. Either way, the RPMs drop, that engine starts saving a bunch of fuel, and I think you're absolutely right. And, David, if we see one more caution, then I think that opens up the certainty of being able to save fuel for that stage one.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, if they do have another caution, then they probably are set to be able to make it, the rest of the way to the stage break. But we're getting ready to see these guys get re-racked, and the tire wear, now is taking effect. It's real easy to overdrive these corners, like we mentioned at the beginning of the broadcast. That the track is pretty flat. Your best banking and the most banking is in turn one. Everything else is pretty flat, so it's real easy to overdrive that corner with the high speeds that these guys carry with the draft, and then just abuse that right front and start losing grip. So we could see some comers and goers here this next restart.
Yeah, it's absolutely right. We'll have about 15 laps before that stage break, and you're absolutely right. Brian Johnson, Vincent Sora, a couple of the other guys that have just came down pit road, they're going to have the freshest tires out there. And of course, anytime you boot up a race or a broadcast here, everybody's talking about tires. But David, that truly is the most important part of your race car, other than obviously being able to steer it. It's to protect those tires, especially on the long runs.
Yeah, so there's two factors when when you're looking at your tires is, the tire wear, but also the heat that you build in that tire. So either one of them is it's just going to affect the handling of that car, especially on corner exit. So these guys just got to be able to do a good job and be able to control that and not overheat their tires and not drive too hard in the corners and wear that tire out as well.
Yeah, and although it's very, very rare, if you build up too much heat on these tires, specifically your front right tire, um, it can cause the tire to explode, deflate, and then you don't have anything there. So you're absolutely right. You don't want to go out there and beat on it too hard and lose the wear that you need, but you also got to take care of the temperature as well. Now, with the pit stops, Brian Johnson coming down, Kyle Rochelle, he's been up here all race long, but that opens the door up for some other drivers. Tom Senchek in the 8, Aaron Kralik, Ethan Smith, Alex Light. It's time for some of these drivers, David, to take advantage of this track position and see if they got anything for Kyle Rochelle. Now, pace car is going to go off. The green flag will be up to that one car on the inside, Kyle Rochelle, but the 8 car with a nice jump coming down this front stretch into turn 1, and we have a real bona fide drag race between these two cars. Who will get the better push going down into turn 1?
Yeah, seems Tom Semchuk out there now. He had the fastest time in practice and stuff, so we'll see what he's able to do. Now that he's running up to second place with the leader here, but we see the number 1, Rochelle, just being able to go ahead and clear him and take that front spot.
Yeah, he checks up high pretty quickly there. As soon as that spotter said he was clear, he went up, shut the door on the number 8 car. I think the 8 maybe was looking for a little bit of a better push down the backstretch from Aaron Kralik. He's in the 01 car behind Tom Senchek, Ethan Smith, Thomas Green. Now, we mentioned him not too long ago. He's up 8 spots, cracking into the top 5 as you're on board with that 01 car sitting in 3rd. And I don't know what it is about this clean air, David. Talk to me a little bit about it, because Brian Johnson was the leader. He had formed a pretty good gap here. Now Kyle Rochelle being out front, you start pulling away on these big stretches.
Yeah, well, if you've ever driven any kind of NASCAR or truck or anything like that, you know that you want as much downforce, air on that nose to get that downforce on your car. So if you're following closely behind another car, you lose that air and you lose that downforce, and your front end doesn't stick as well as if you're in clean air, as we see the number 1. So the number 1's got all that air on that nose, getting that front tire, those 2 front tires to be able to grip that track and help them rotate through the corner. One quick note too, we were talking about Mark Whitley was being back, I think it was 13th, 14th spot. He's now running in 6th position, so he's working his way to the front.
Yeah, that's the 77 car. Ethan Smith in the 00. Looked like he poked his head down low, and the 31 of Thomas Green did the same. He was ready to go down low, had Aaron stuck with it. They both checked back up high, but now you see them working together there. There's the teamwork through turn 1. So as soon as the 00 went down low, David, he saw the 31 do the same. They didn't do it right then and there, but at least he knew mentally, if I go down low, I got a car behind me that's willing to do the same.
Yeah, when teammates on tracks like this, we already mentioned, it's a very big track. It's got some speedway feel to it. So if you can get up with your teammates and be able to work your way up front together, it's a big advantage. As we saw with the 01, he got left hung out to dry, and then it's lose 2 spots.
And speaking of working your way up front, that 8 car racing with a heavy heart here tonight. We'll get into that a little bit later in the race, but Tom Senchek in the 8 car takes the lead from Kyle Rochelle, and we have our 3rd different leader of the night.
Yeah, and keep an eye on the 28 car. He's already back up inside the top 10, I believe is where he's at now. But he's not too far back by there. Just had hit it, so he's somebody to keep an eye on. He's making passes on the outside. He'll get a really good run here off this turn, and might be able to gain another position or 2 between the 3 and the 19.
You called it, Mark Whitley. Seems like he's bounced back here pretty good. He's in the 77 car right behind the 01 of Aaron Kralik. He's lost a spot or 2 on this restart, but overall up 5 spots. He's in 5th. Patrick Hernandez behind Mark Whitley. He's in the 19, and I bring him up because right now, David, the 28 car of Brian Johnson storming through the field.
He is, picks up another position, here off that turn there. So it hasn't quite been, 19 got a little bit there close to the wall, maneuvered down towards the 28, but under caution.
Yeah, and that's our fourth caution, but shout out to the producer there. He was on board with Cedric Hunter, and as you were talking about the contact between Johnson and Hernandez, the audience at home got to see it firsthand. A good job by both those drivers to be able to save that. Let's go ahead and figure out what brought out the fourth caution. We'll go ahead and take a look at the replay. Looks like Dylan Walterman in the 99 once again caught up in a little bit of a scrap here mid-pack.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. Again, we talked about it several times already. Just that flat exit there just makes contact with the wall and goes to the inside wall there, and just heavy damage. And I've heard here uses his fast repair, so we'll see what kind of damage he has as far as motor wise, but he's got that modified look to it for the rest of the race.
Yeah, the 20 car of James Trammell also wrapped up heavily into that caution. I thought he actually had to take a tow to pit road. He was on his hood at one point in time, but right before we flash back to this replay, it looked like he was able to possibly gain his not his footing, in this case his wheels. But look at that as we go for a ride on the 20 car. Yeah, he goes all the way around, David.
Yeah, it's not a very fun ride to be a part of there, because that if you were just a part of something you didn't want to be a part of, and to no fault of his own, just wrong spot at the wrong time.
Yeah, and unfortunately, even though he landed on his wheels, I think his engine might have blew there, because he did eventually take the tow to pit road. You see him down there now. He has to take care of some heavy damage. We're in our fourth caution, 10 laps to go before the first stage break. We're going to take a break and hear a word from our sponsors.
To be the best, you can't settle for the rest. There's a reason that Pocono Setup Shop is trusted by more virtual and real-world tracks and companies than any other setup shop in iRacing. With partners such as Stafford Motor Speedway, the Nashville Fairground Speedway, Five Flag Speedway, Speed 51, and more. When you want something done right, you go to the experts at Pocono Setup Shop.
With setups available for most series on both asphalt and dirt, built by a team of professional builders consisting of some of the top talents on the service, Pocono Setup Shop LLC has what you need to hit the track with confidence. Head over to McConeySetupShop.com and learn why Pocono Setup Shop is the official setup shop of Richmond Raceway Esports and is partnered with some of the largest names in virtual and real racing.
And remember, at McConey Setup Shop, there are setups, but your victories.
We are back at the Tricky Triangle at Pocono alongside David Medina. I'm Brandon Robinson. And right now, David, we're about 8 laps under our 4th caution, 8 laps before our first stage break. What are your thoughts right now about this first stage that we're going through?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's a lot more caution than you guys would like to see, but we got a variety of guys that have pitted early and then pitted on these last cautions. And guys up front that haven't pitted it at all, so it's going to be interesting to see if all these cautions was enough for these guys to save it so they can get, make it to the end. But keep an eye on the 28, out there as well. He's made his way back up front with this re-racking of the field. We'll see if he's able to make his moves to get close to the front and take his number 1 spot back.
Yeah, Brian Johnson coming in here as one of the race favorites. Pace car off right now. The race favorite might be Tom Senchek on the inside in the white and blue number 8 car. He's trying to fight off the push from the 1. Got a really solid push from the 31 and the 77. And David, that high side right now, bumper to bumper.
Yeah, they are very close together and definitely helping out the Rochelle car. The 31 definitely give him a good push there at the start. The 31 got a little bit loose there, which is going to open the door for Mark Whitley to make a move on the inside there. But I don't think that 01 is going to be close enough to help Mark to be able to hold that off. That 28 car is much closer to 28.
Yeah, Kyle Rochelle doing a phenomenal job taking that. He got the push from the 31. The 8's going to fall back behind him. In second, the 00 car of Ethan Smith still holding on to that 3rd, along with Thomas Green in 4th. Brian Johnson, he's all the way back up to 5th. Remember, he was one of those cars that pitted, I think, lap 20-ish, 22 there, David, and he's on those fresh tires, come storming back, already back up to P5.
A little bit farther back, we see Patrick Hernandez there struggling a little bit, got 3 wide, and then almost had a little bit of contact there with the number 2 car, but was able to keep the car under control. But I think he's lost about another 4 or 5 positions there since this restart.
And the guy who hasn't lost any positions, Tom Senchek, it's like it never happened. He's right back into the lead. He got a really solid push from Ethan Smith in the 00. He thought about going down low with the 31. The 31 says, no, I'm going to take over that 3rd spot. And we're back with the 8 car leading here at Pocono. Brian Johnson on the inside of the tunnel turn. He's looking to get back up there. He's currently 4th.
Yeah, going 3 wide here, coming into this turn here with the 31 on the outside and Mark Whitley on the inside. Be able to, again, these guys doing a great job controlling their cars. Mark had to let off a little bit. Oh, got a little contact there with the 13, and we have a car going into pit road.
A car going down pit road. We'll see. Stays green. It looks like it will. Everything under wrap there. So as Tom Senchek and Kyle Rochelle bumper to bumper trade and swap that 1st place position, all it's done is open the door and allowed the 28 car on the fresher tires to not only take 3rd place, but he is hot on Kyle Rochelle's heels.
Yeah, he is, and getting a good run on these guys here, and I'm sure these guys see him closing in inside their mirror there as he really gets a good gain there on the number 1 car. So I don't think it'll be too much longer, before we see these guys, the 28 making a move to take another position or 2, as we only have 5 laps left before the stage comes to an end.
5 laps left in stage 1. Shout out to Xtreme Motorsports for sponsoring tonight's race, Xtreme Mountains 250. You're watching it live on Free Fast Broadcasting. This is the 5th week of the NAISCC Cup Series, and if you're tuning in for the first night, you've missed a lot in the last 4 weeks. We've had a number of different winners. In fact, I think, David, correct me if I'm wrong, 4 different races, 4 different winners so far this season.
Yeah, I think it just speaks volumes of the talent that's on this track here, and just kind of want to talk a little bit here. The one in the 8, the one was just really on that just locked bumper with Tom there and give him a real push, and I think he might have given him a little bit too much push going into 1, and he tried to go inside and make the pass and wasn't able to do it. But well, I'm sure he'll probably be looking to try that again as he lets off early and he gets a really good run here.
Yeah, it really does. You see the one car actually dip below the yellow line on his left sides. Brian Johnson on the outside. Kyle with a little bit of a struggle out of turn 4. And the 28 now going to get a push from the 1 down the front stretch, down into turn 1. He's also got the 31 car. It's 3 versus 1 right now as the 1 actually decides to drop down and ruin that excitement. But, David, I think the 28 got all the push he needed.
He definitely did, and one of those opportunities to say what the difference tires make here. It's allowing him to go where the other cars cannot go and making it stick, and I think that's really been the difference for him, working his way back up the lead.
Looking through the middle of the field right now, you see the 88 car rocking the track racer paint scheme. He's got the 3 car of Alex Light on the outside of him. That's Adam Westfield on the inside. These guys are battling it out right now for that 12th spot. And David, on a track like this, it's very long, it's very wide. These guys have plenty of room on the track. It's not like there's just one race going on for the lead. These guys are really battling it out, even through 12th and 15th.
Yeah, every position matters. If you're a race car driver, you're don't matter if you're racing for 30th or 29th or anything like that. You're gonna race for every position as hard as you possibly can. But yeah, you're right. This track is very wide, which allows these guys to be able to run 3, 4 wide and have room to do so. What makes it tricky is coming off the corners there as to whether you be able to hold your lane.
You see the 5 car there. That's Pocono Moniz. He's back in 21st right now, sporting a Hendricks car.com. And David, I don't think there's any question on who he's rooting for tomorrow at Phoenix.
Yeah, I think he made it pretty well known of who he's rooting for. And just for a quick note, if you haven't watched it, he did qualify on pole.
Yeah, so Kyle Larson taking care of what he needs to. These drivers here tonight taking care of what they need to. Lap 39. So once we hit 40 and all the cars have crossed the start-finish line, that will be the end of stage 1. David, the top 5 drivers bringing home bonus points.
That's correct, and bonus points. That's what really matters is going into the playoffs is trying to get as many bonus points as possible. And I just kind of wanted to talk about the job that the 28th of Johnson, what he's done. We saw him do this earlier, and when we dropped the green flag on the initial start, he put a pretty good gap on the field. And he's doing it again. Once he's able to make past the number 1 car, he's just been able to set sails. So, again, talking about tires, he's out there on pressure tires in these cars. But we've got 1 lap left here to go. So it looks like the number 1 and Tom on the number 8 car is going to have enough fuel to make it to the end of the stage.
Yeah, they did. Brian Johnson coming down halfway through. He's going to be able to pick up this first stage win. So certainly a strategy that worked for him. Kyle Rochelle, Tom Sinchek being able to stay out. Maybe not winning stage 1, but certainly in the points. And also important to note, the guy from up north, the Canadian, Cedric Hunter, came into this season with a lot of hype around him. Of course, he's the guy that races the pink Hello Kitty each and every week. He struggled in qualifying. He came in at 14th, but right now he's going to finish in the bonus points in 4th.
Yeah, that it just kind of goes to show that qualifying is important, but on tracks like this, you get these cautions as well, and it can continue to re-rack them. He's just done a phenomenal job of working his way to the front as we come to the end of the first stage.
So that is going to bring out the stage 1 caution. Lap 41 complete. Johnson, Rochelle, Senchek, Hunter, and Sora all getting the bonus points.
Yeah, I want to talk. We were just talking about the bonus there, but if you want to see how important these bonus points are, just kind of watch the 15 there on this last lap of how hard they were racing each other. to get that fifth and final spot. It is 1 point, but again, those points matter, and those guys were battling each other cleanly, but pretty hard to try and get that last spot.
Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, here in the stage break, we do have a little bit of a moment that we'd like to take. You see the 8 car right there. That is Tom Senchek. The reason why he's in that paint scheme right now is because he lost a friend. And not just the racing community, but the world. Lost one hell of a person recently, John Goop Mondelli. Goop, once president of the Flemington Speedway Historical Society, also the founder of TRSH, that's Track Racers Against Street Hot Rodding. That's what that paint scheme is in honor of. Goop's love for racing and his favorite driver since childhood, Billy the Kid Pouch, was like no other. Goop said to a friend once, "I never had much money, but I'm rich with friends." He leaves behind family, many friends, and a godchild, LJ. He now chases that checkered flag in the sky. We say rest easy, Goop. We'll take a moment of silence before heading off to commercial break. As the 8 car of Tom Senchek makes his way across the start-finish line. David, I've talked about it before, and fans of Freaky Fast Broadcasting probably know me very well for advocating for this. Sometimes in sim racing, we carry heavy hearts, and we race out there with a band of brothers and teammates, and sim racing provides this huge platform that you're able to throw on a paint scheme. And for that driver right now, for Tom Senchek, that paint scheme is so special, not only to him, but the friends and the family that are tuning in to tonight's race.
Yeah, let me start off by saying that our thoughts and prayers are with the family and with Tom as well as he's racing with a heavy heart tonight. But I want to commend the league on setting this time aside to be able to pay tribute to him and to his family as well.
All righty, guys, and not to downplay that, but we are 2x2. The lights on the track should be going off. We'll get back to Green Flag Racing. We appreciate you guys sharing that moment with us here at Freaky Fast Broadcasting, that moment of silence as that 8 car up to 4th right now. David, we saw he's capable of leading this race as long as Brian Johnson goes down pit road and gives up that top spot.
Yeah, this restart is going to be interesting to see. It's the start of the next stage, and it's going to be the longest one that we have for the race. So, this is going to be an important restart for these guys. We'll see these guys probably start getting spread out more and more, and we'll start seeing green flag pit stops. So Tom's up there, 28's up there, the 1's up there, but also take a look, Mark Willie's up there as we take the green flag.
Yeah, Gregory Shaw going to be on that outside, getting the push from the 1 car of Kyle Rochelle. Technically was in that first spot, I believe, so he chose to run that outside line. Brian Johnson going to be on the inside. He has the 77 car of Mark Whitley, and of course the 8 of Tom Senchek, who moves quickly up to 2nd. A little bit of contact out of turn 2 onto the stretch.
Yeah, looks like the 1 got a little bit loose there too as he got close with Mark Whitley there, but was able to do a good job keeping the car clear the 77, allowing the 77 to get back behind them.
So as we get the second and final stage underway, Brian Johnson picking up right where he left off at the start of this race. We'll really start to see if Tom Senchek now and the 1 car of Kyle Rochelle can make a run on it. Before, David, when we went to that stage break, Brian Johnson had the advantage. He had fresh tires. Right now, all these guys on fresh tires, and we're still watching Johnson walk away with this.
Yeah, this is one of those tracks that you're really, really comfortable with, or you have a hard time with some of the corners. It's really hard to get all 3 of these corners down perfectly. But I'll tell you, that 28 car has done a fantastic job so far, all race long, on nailing all 3 of these corners.
The 66 of Gregory Shaw up 10 spots. He started P20. He's found himself fighting for 10th with Max Foner. Foner on the outside in the 51, going through turn 2, too wide. Not for the faint of heart there, David, as you know, that is part of why they call it the tricky triangle. So those 2 drivers going full speed side by side. Well done.
Yeah, absolutely well done. And they make it look so much easier than what it actually is. So kudos to them. But we're watching the 66. He's kind of falling back. I'm not sure if he took 2 tires or not, but different strategies out there. Some guys probably might have not. Everybody came down pit road, and some guys might have opted just to take 2 right side tires only, just to try. We have a wreck here.
Yeah, that's Cedric Hunter, and I was just getting ready to talk to him. Sorry to cut you off there, David. I was just getting ready to talk about you had pointed it out. Either you're really comfortable at Pocono or you're not. And Cedric Hunter had a really good spot on that last restart and immediately dropped back through the field and now found himself caught up. I think that's the car with the big Twitch emblem on the hood there. We'll go ahead and take a look at the replay. But Cedric Hunter certainly struggling and continuing.
Yeah, we'll see what's happening here and stuff. I thought I heard something about the making contact with the apron there, but yeah, we see the 13 and the 3 making contact. But if you do make contact with that apron, yep, as we see there, and what happens is that you kind of lose that front end a little bit, and they'll want to slide up on you a little bit. So as we see here, he gets on that yellow line, you see the front end bounce, and exactly what happens is just drifts up on into the number 3, just an innocent bystander there, just unfortunate contact.
Yeah, great call behind the scenes. That's exactly what it was. And David, you explained it. It's you don't get any traction down there below the apron. And unfortunately, all it takes is one tiny part of that tire to hit below the yellow line. And we see what unfolds there. The 13 of Cedric Hunter gets loose, drives up into the 3 car of Alex Light. Now, the good news out of all that, I think both those drivers do have a fast repair. The car that I was talking about, that has the big Twitch emblem. I think it might be the 12 car of Ryan. I didn't see him caught up in that. He's got some pretty heavy front end damage on that as well.
Yeah, I'll have to see if we can't find, what ended up happening there. It might have been just a maneuver just to try and avoid, somebody he was catching up with. But we'll see what happens here.
Yeah, and this is behind all that action too. So there's going to be some cars that I think are checking up on him. You see the 12 car right there. Yep, you called it. Tries to avoid hitting the rear end of the 25 car. Oh, man, and he smacks the 3 as well. So some heavy damage there from Ryan Fierro in the 12. He's going to come down pit road, the 3 car, and we see the 20 car as well coming down pit road, David.
Yeah, and I can tell you, in my early racing career, that I've had that. I've done that myself. And when you see an accident that's happening like that, you got to quickly decide left or right which way you're going to go. And if you end up getting on the brakes a little bit too hard, you lock up that front end and it'll start sliding. And then if the car's parked, like we saw there on the track, you lock up the front end, and then you have no time to try and turn back down and avoid it. So just unfortunate for him.
Yeah, and I think sometimes that could be the disadvantage to some of these drivers as we go through the stage breaks right now. In Cedric Hunter's case, whether he didn't pit at all or he did the early pit, David, we're talking about nearly 40 laps out there on the track, finding the groove, a couple of cautions, but we had a really good green flag run there before the stage break. And once you throw out that stage, the adrenaline starts to slow down. You're back, doing a restart there, and you kind of get out of the groove of what you once were.
Yeah, exactly. That's really easy to do, especially when you have these cars getting re-racked under these cautions and stuff. The drivers have to get their lines refocused on their line and their entry points and stuff like that. So we talked about earlier about just different strategies. You might be on to something there that some of these guys might have not took tires if they pitted earlier. They get 4 sets of tires. So I mentioned in the beginning of the broadcast that these guys are very smart. Racing with them, I've seen just the time they put in different strategies and stuff, trying to save tires towards the end, maybe for a late caution. And I'm unfortunate some guys got caught up in these accidents. As we have Green and Waterman that are already out of the race, and only up there 50 laps.
Yeah, he was the driver that was wrapped up in sending the 3 car of Alex Light on his hood right before that first stage break. And unfortunately, running out of fast repairs there. You see Cedric Hunter coming out of turn 3 down this front stretch, trying to catch the pack. He has plenty of time. Again, 2.5 miles wide. We got 1 lap to go green. But right now, just like we talked about it in the first stage, David, you certainly don't want to start this stage with 2, 3, 4 cautions. These guys are really going to have to start settling in and hitting their marks.
Yeah, and I suspect they will. I suspect we're going to be getting close here to seeing a long run as these guys will get settled in and get single filed out and make a little better planning on their passes and stuff. But this last caution there was just unfortunate, just catching that apron and shooting up front. There was just perfect side-by-side racing up until that point.
Race favorite Brian Johnson has lived up to the expectations. He's on the inside of row 1 on this restart. He's led a good chunk full of laps along with the 1 and the 8 car, all sharing in that. We've had 3 different leaders here so far. What is it going to take, David, for Tom Senchek, Kyle Rochelle, and the 77 of Mark Whitley to stay with Brian Johnson?
Well, hopefully they've had their notepad out and been watching what he's been doing and trying to pick up some tips on there and be able to use it to give him a real battle and maybe use it against him. That's the great thing about having these restarts, is that it allows them to get bunched back up. And if you're following him, that's what you're trying to do, is just trying to get some notes on what he's doing.
Speaking of restarts, here we go. Pace car off, the 8 car of Tom Senchek, the 28, getting pushed by the 1 of Kyle Rochelle, the 77, trying to get a run out of the back bumper of the 8. He finally plays catch up there. A little bit of a slow start for him, and we are nose to nose down into turn 1.
turn 1 side by side all the way back to the field there. So some close racing right now as we come off turn 1 and go to this long stretch, the second longest stretch of this racetrack, and get ready to come into the turn number 2.
Turn number 2, the 8 car looking onto the inside of Brian Johnson, looking for the advantage through that tunnel turn. Can he keep the momentum through? It looks like he is. No, the 28 car still with the advantage on that outside.
Yeah, just got a good run going in there. Just wasn't able to make a stick to get back to the throttle, as we saw Johnson was able to get back to the throttle sooner, and almost opened the door for Mark Whitley to make the pass. And coming off this turn, we see Mark Whitley able to get the pass utilizing the draft off the 28.
Yeah, 1 lap down on this restart. The 77 has passed what looked like to be some of the race favorites. Kyle Rochelle, Tom Senchek early on. Vincent Sora now up 7 spots. He finds himself in 4th on the inside of the 8 car. Tom Senchek in a little bit of trouble out there in no man's land on the high side. He drops back. The 77 on the front stretch, trying to look for a run on the inside, but I don't think he's going to catch that 1 car.
I'm a little surprised he did not just take that spot there in front of the 15 and slide up in front of him. He decided to stay low, and he's now dropped 2 more additional spots and still falling backwards.
Vincent Sora running 3rd. You're looking at this from his dash cam through turn 3 and 4. You see just how flat turn 3 and 4 is. We talked about that earlier on in the race, but David, since then, we really haven't seen anybody struggle out of turn 4.
Yeah, that's a great thing when you run so many laps. You kind of get used to where you struggle at, and you make those adjustments. And these guys have done a great job of making those adjustments coming off turn 3 to keep it off the wall.
Yeah, silly me. It says it right there on turn 3 in big black bold letters. What turn 4? So turn 3 is what we were talking about there. The 28 car, Brian Johnson, still leading this race. The producer giving me a hard time back there. So all fun and games here in the Freaky Fast broadcasting booth. And if you can't bust each other's chops, then there's no point of doing this thing here. So back up front, though, the 28 car, Brian Johnson, Kyle Rochelle, the 15 of Vincent Sora. Now out of turn 3, back onto the front stretch. You see the early struggles, Dave, of Tom Senchek falling back to 4th, but that's where he started this race. I think he's going to be fine. What are your thoughts right now? Struggling a little bit on the restart.
Yeah, I definitely struggled a little bit on the restart, and just the draft just didn't work for his, in his advantage there. So he just got back in line, and he just needs to do what he did to get back up there, early in the run. Just do the same thing. Be patient. Let your car come to you, and work your way back up. So you got a long way to go. But I'll tell you, I'm really impressed by that number 1. What we haven't seen is the 28 take off from this group, as we have in the last couple of restarts. So that number 1 of Rochelle has just done a really good job being able to keep up with that 28.
28 cars making their way to the tricky triangle, and all 28 of them, for the most part, single file. You see the 28 leading them out of turn 3 onto the front stretch. You're right. The 1 car right now seems to show the most promise as far as keeping up with the 28. We've yet to see him be able to make a pass cleanly onto Brian Johnson. Of course, that's Kyle Rochelle we're talking about. Vincent Sora, though, we've called his name throughout the season. The 15 car certainly knows his way around iRacing.com, the official simulator of NASCAR. And as he works his way up 8 spots into 3rd, we might have a new name trying to take over this lead.
Yeah, that number 1 that we were talking about earlier about having a notepad and taking notes as to what the fastest guy on the track was doing and trying to learn from them. And I think Rochelle might have done that because he's been able to keep up with them there, and then keeping an eye on that number 15 car too. He's sticking with them and gaining some ground and stuff in some of the turns. So we could be seeing a battle for the first position here with 3 cars.
I think Kyle Rochelle kind of, or really counting on Vincent Sora to catch up, right? I mean, right now he's behind the 28 of Johnson. That's where he's been pretty much the whole race. He knows that he's not going to be able to pass the 28 cleanly by himself. So right now he's looking in his rear view, checking his relatives, saying, come on, 15, come on, Vincent, let's go. I need that push.
Yeah, he's either going to be hoping for that, or he's going to be hoping that the 1 and the 28 start racing side by side, which will allow him to close up. So he's hoping for one of those two things to happen.
The 8 car, Tom Semchek, he fell to 4th, but that's where he's been able to stick it. The 77 of Mark Whitley behind him in 5th. Aaron Kralik in 6th. Danny Cochran, though, on the inside makes that pass. We got a battle for 5th, 6th, and 7th.
Yeah, got some good battles going on, and it's kind of getting the feel of, I don't want to jinx it, but we're kind of getting the feel of a long run as we see these cars spreading out some.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right. That's important there because, this is the longest run of the race. We're technically going to go 55 laps, I believe, after the caution laps were all said and done after the stage break, which means if we can keep it green, the more these guys spread out, the higher that chance is, David. Then we really start to see these green flag pit stops and the strategies and the shuffling in and out.
Yeah, exactly. And, one of the things just to kind of keep in mind is what we might not be seeing somebody trying to press to try and take the lead is, the draft on here. So, that number 1, Rochelle might be, content being behind the leader and utilizing that draft to save some of that fuel.
That's a good point, Rao. Good point. Another driver content, the 2 car of Danny Cochran up 3 spots. He finds himself in between Mark Whitley and Aaron Kralik sitting there in 6th. And right now, David, I think not only Kyle Rochelle, but a lot of these drivers that are in the top 8 are feeling pretty comfortable where they're at right now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good spot to be, running in the top 8 and being close to the leader and being towards the front. So ride it out. The pit strategies will come into play as well. So it's still early on into the race. It's a lot of racing left to do.
And I will say this, not to just keep all our focus up front, but it's been a few times that Brian Johnson was in the lead and absolutely ran away with this race. I mean, a 2-second lead at Pocono is a pretty big lead, but right now, Kyle Rochelle, you guys see it on the tower to your left, keeping it so close with Brian Johnson, but even Vincent Sora behind him is within a half second of Brian Johnson.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think really all of the top 5 cars so far have done a really good job in keeping it, within striking distance. Even Mark Whitley back there running in 5th position, he's less than a second back. So I think these guys have done a fantastic job in this restart to keep it close as we see Tom closing in on that 15.
Yeah, he certainly is. We got a nice little battle for 10th as well. The 21 car of Jonathan Pittman has climbed up from 24th up to 10th. Jesse Thormock and Max Foner right now, they dropped back single file, but they were 2 wide, almost 3 wide at one point. That seems to have settled down. On board now with the 8 car of Tom Semchek as he's starting to ride that outside line there, Dave. Vincent still on that inside, but a lot of these drivers, as this green flag continues, will start shuffling up higher onto the track.
Yeah, they definitely will. On that episode there, though, I don't think Tom had a choice as Mark Whitley was on the inside of him. But that sometimes when that happens, you get a little bit better run off, and as we saw Tom being able to hold that position there, so you might have learned something there to go ahead and maybe start moving up the groove a little bit, get a little better grip, on the higher side of the track.
The top 6 starting with Brian Johnson, closing with Danny Cochran back there in that 2 car, really starting to separate themselves from the field. Nick Crawford in 7th, almost 2 seconds behind the 2 car. And David, even though we do have another pit stop coming, maybe 2 late race, last thing you want to see is that other car in front of you continue to grow smaller and smaller.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to lose that draft, especially if you get in a spot where there's a gap in front of you and a gap behind you, because that kind of puts you in no man land. So these first 5 cars have done a really good job in doing that. But you can kind of see there's the first pack, here's the second pack, and they're all pretty close to each other. But you ever get to a spot where you're just by yourself, this is not the place you want to be. You're not going to make up time there.
That's Nick Crawford in the 11th, 7th. Aaron Kralik in 8th. Max Foner 9th. Jonathan Pittman in 10th. And Jesse Thomack right outside that top 10 in 11th. Right now, it looks like we have close to 3 close packs of racing. We talked about it there a little bit early on into the race, just how big this racetrack is. And you certainly don't want to lose the draft, like David just said. But the comfortable thing is these guys know everybody's going to come down pit road. However, David, that does turn into a problem if we don't get that caution and if we stay green, then this can really play a big factor going towards the end of this race.
Well, it definitely could. And the other part of the, coming on pit road, you might come in with a group of 5 cars, but if all 5 cars don't, come in the pit road smoothly and cleanly, you might only leave with only maybe 2 cars in that draft. And so you lose the opportunity of really being able to catch that front pack again. So it'll be interesting to see how these green flag pit stops come in and who gets shuffled out, from that pit stop.
Absolutely. And the 11 car right there, Nick Crawford, knowing that he's going to have his work cut out for him to be able to catch that front pack. And then the third pack even behind them, as these guys continue to spread out here. We'll see just how this plays into effect as the race continues to go green. This is NAISCC Cup Series. You can watch it here every Saturday night. David Medina next to me, side by side. I'm Brandon Robinson. And we are going to commercial break. This is the Xtreme Mountains 250 at Pocono. Back here at Pocono with NAISCC, powered by Freaky Fast Broadcasting. Simbox Store Track Racer is what powers us here in the booth. Back into the action right now. Tom Senchek been able to bounce back, and as we get back to the race, actually, Kyle Rochelle bounces off the wall, so he's going to lose a spot to Brian Johnson, and now they're side by side with the 8 car. Dave, Tom Senchek up there enjoying that clean air.
Yeah, Tom did a great job in getting that lead, and we'll have to see what kind of damage he has and how it hurts his straightaway speed, if any. Hopefully, maybe more towards the rear end, and it won't cause a lot of damage and cost them. But yeah, we got side-by-side racing here between the 28 and the 1, trying to get that second place. But I tell you, Tom is loving this, because hopefully it'll give him an opportunity to stretch out that lead a little bit further.
And that's exactly what he's doing, looking in his rearview mirror, watching those guys fight for second place behind them. In the 77, Mark Whitley, and the 15, right there on the bumper, Vincent Sora. They also enjoyed these cars battling it out. They saw Kyle Rochelle hit the wall. There's Brian Johnson trying to close that second place. Can't do it. These guys side by side.
That's an impressive job by Brian Johnson to be able to hang on the inside there with the guys lined up behind him and them not passing him. So just able to do a better job of being able to get through the corners than when the group on the outside.
And I'll tell you, another impressive feat was actually the 1 car of Kyle Rochelle. As soon as we came back from commercial break, he smacks the wall, avoids hitting Brian Johnson. Most cases when that happens, especially coming out of a corner exit like that, David, you're not just losing 1 position, but possibly 2 or 3. So for Kyle Rochelle to be able to bounce back like that and just stay in contention for this second place, heck of a job.
That is a great point. I mean, we've seen already a few cautions earlier where guys that made contact with the wall, they end up bouncing off the outside wall and go towards the inside. So did a great job of keeping control of his car after making contact with the wall and then able to keep pace.
Yeah, and as the 1 car, he does get passed by the 28. Vincent Sora trying to take a stab onto the outside now, but the 1 car of Kyle Rochelle actually checked up a little bit, which meant the 77 of Mark Whitley had to check up. He was right on the back bumper. It looked like he was next in line to take a spot from Kyle Rochelle, but because of that, he had to lift, he had to check up, lost a little bit of time. But David, you see just how powerful the draft is at Pocono. He's right back up there.
Yeah, absolutely. It'd be interesting to watch if these guys get nose to tail again, if they're able to chase down the leader. But I think that's what it's going to take to get that leader back. Tom, it's just for these guys to work together. But while I got the opportunity, I wanted to go ahead and give a shout out to our biggest mover in the 88 of Adam Westfield. He's up 18 spots, so he's doing a fantastic job, this race so far in gaining ground.
The 88 car, Adam Westfield in the Toyota Camry, and you're absolutely right. He's up 18 spots into 10th. Behind him, Maurice Gamillion, also up 7 spots. Dakota Moines in front of him. All those guys, big movers right now, as they're up. Almost all of those drivers up double digits right now. That's a pretty good point right here. But David, here comes the green flag pit stops. The 88 car, Adam Westfield, the 44 of Maurice Gamillion, and James Trammell, who struggled here early on, doing a little bit of an early pit stop strategy.
Yeah, that's right on cue there. They can get about 37 to 39 laps of fuel, or laps on the fuel tank. So, coming in on lap 73 is going to be just on the fuel window there. So we'll see, how that's going to help him out and see if he's got enough to make it all the way to the end. But we see Tom still, making pace. He's got, it looks like Johnson. Yeah, Johnson's in pit, and but Soros is still out on the track, and Boucher is running in 3rd place.
Kyle Rochelle in 3rd, Vincent Soros 2nd, and Tom Senchek still your race leader. So green flag pit stops are underway. We're on lap 75, and this is going to be commercial-free racing. That's right. We are going to watch all 25 remaining laps all the way through. And I'm going to tell you right now, David, it's like Tom Senchek, a man on a mission. He struggled there after that first stage came to an end. He dropped back a little bit, and now all he's done is build himself almost a second lead over Vincent Sora in the 15.
Yeah, and we see him come down to the pit road now. So in the 15, joining him, the 15 made up some ground there. Got it a little bit hot, had to lock up his brakes, but was able to get in there. But he definitely closed up that gap with the number 8 and Tom.
And now those guys are going to start their green flag pit stops. Tom Senchek, Vincent Sora, Kyle Rochelle, Nick Crawford, Mark Whitley in the 77. He stays out along with the 51 car of Max Foner. But David, both those cars very, very far from each other right now, almost a 3.5 second gap. So there's really no advantage of these drivers staying out right now. You'd almost look at these guys to come down pit road this time by.
Yeah, that's a great point. We talked about that earlier, that if you start getting, kind of a no man's land where you don't have a car within a second of you up front or behind you, that you don't really get the advantage of that draft. And that's kind of where those guys are at, inside that three second mark. So they're not able to utilize that draft advantage to try and close the gap up in front of them. So it makes you wonder if they will go ahead and come in pit road and see if they can't get back within the draft.
There it is. There's the 51 coming down pit road. So there's a driver we talked about, and that's what it is. I mean, when you're out there by yourself, the 49 car now of Ryan Bird coming down as well, you're not gaining any time or any advantage on the leaders when you're out there by yourself. Now, of course, if you had a draft with you, 4 or 5 cars, maybe you can get a train going and really make that work for you. But when you're a single car out there, the leaders already came down. You might as well come down pit road, and that's exactly what happened. Now, back up front, the 77 of Mark Whitley still waiting for his green flag pit stop. David, he's in the lead. He's got 21 seconds on Alex Light. How long does the 77 stay out? Is he burning his fuel at this point?
Yeah, you'd have to think that he's trying to stay out maybe as long as he can to see if a caution comes out. But, like you were talking about, it's not really towards his advantage because of the fact these guys are going to be coming out in a draft and with new pressure tires. So they're going to be faster than he is. So they're going to be making up time for when he does come down to pit road. He could end up losing quite a bit of time in the position he was and to the position he will be in after he makes his pit stop.
So with 24 laps to go, the pit window has opened. We're going to see these drivers shuffle down. We'll see who the advantage goes to. Keep in mind, when we started doing these green flag pit stops, it was the 8 car of Tom Senchek who came down pit road first. He was the leader. He had a pretty sizable lead over the 01 car of Aaron Kralik. Right now, they're sitting 5th and 6th.
Yeah, just kind of watching Mark. Earlier we saw a caution because I think it was the 13 car that caught the apron and then kind of shot him up in turn 1. But if you kind of watch the turn 4, we talked about it's a pretty flat turn. What you'll see what some of these cars are starting to do, especially as tire wear goes on, is they're drifting that left front onto the apron there to help that car rotate a little bit better.
Now, this is a good shot right here. Stay with the 77 and the 49. This is what it looks like for the guys at home. Even though the 77 car is the leader, the 49 a lap down. Now, he's going to get his lap back the hard way, but because he has the fresh tires, and as he blows the doors off the 77 car, this is what David was talking about. Yes, you're in the lead. You have a sizable lead, but every lap that you continue to stay out there, vehicles like the 49 car are going to continue to gain the time because they're on the fresh tires.
Yeah, so to answer the question, well, why do you do that if you know that you're going to be losing time? Well, it's about strategy. If you feel like maybe you don't have the car to beat, you try to utilize the strategy. So the hope of Mark right now is that he stays out as long as he can. He's able to get maybe a caution, and then allows him to go on pit road and maybe trap some cars a lap down. But this is a 2.5 mile track, so it's really hard to get cars a lap down.
Now, behind Mark Whitley, about 22 seconds, is Alex Light in the 3 car. Now, remember, guys, he was wrapped up in a couple of incidences earlier. At one point, he did a complete barrel roll, was able to come down and use his fast repair. And even for the moment, being up there in second place, David, that 3 car working his way back into the race.
Yeah, definitely. We have a caution here, so we'll see Mark Willie come down, and we'll see where he ends up coming back out. He's not really gonna have a whole lot of advantage on tire difference between the two cars. There'll be some tire difference, but not a huge one. So we'll see how that works out for him. Yeah, Alex like just doing a good job in recovery, staying out and working his way back up front. Just a difficult race. Started the race for him, but sitting here in second place.
Looks like Cedric Hunter wrapped up in this one, coming off of turn 3. Cars getting loose. They're on fresh tires. They're out there trying to build up the heat. You see, coming out of turn 3, oh, it's actually the 21 car and the 94, and I think maybe the 11 car getting involved on the back end of that. But another big wreck on the front stretch involving the 94 of Sean Huffstutler and the 21 car of Jonathan Pittman.
Yeah, just unfortunate there. Jonathan Pittman was having a pretty good run. Picked up a whole lot of spots early in the race, and those two guys coming together. They're coming off turn 3.
Now, right on cue, David, we couldn't make this up if we tried. You just got done explaining why a driver like Mark Whitley, who's out there in the lead, knows that he's losing ground a little bit. He's going to stay out, hope that you get that cheap caution, I call them. And it worked. The 77 car of Mark Whitley could have came down anytime he wanted to. He stayed out there. He continued to grind, and he got exactly what he wanted in this 7th caution.
Yeah, we're going to see how it plays out for him because, like I said, it's a 2.5 mile, track. So, normally on a mile and a half track or something like that, you'll get, a few more cars a lap down. But on a 2.5 mile track like we see here, we still have, 23, I think it's 23 cars, 24 cars, on the lead lap. So, he's going to come down, he's going to get his tires and fuel and all that. But he's going to be starting to the back of that, towards maybe the middle to the back of that pack.
Yeah, and it's important that you note it out on a 2.5 mile track under caution. That's actually going to allow some of these drivers, too, to take care of some of the optional repairs that we may not know of. It's easy to point out when somebody needs to use a fast repair and they have required repairs, but on a track like Pocono, it's easy to slide up against that wall, hit your fenders, start losing some aerodynamics. These drivers are going to be able to comfortably come down pit road, take 4 tires, splash, and take... Oh, we got trouble on pit road, the 41 car. Not too sure what happened there. He might have gotten swiped on pit road. If we go back just a little bit, if we get a rewind right there, the 41 car sideways on pit road. Again, I'm not too sure if there was contact here or if he just spun out of his box. You see him trying to figure it out there, almost a Austin Powers moment there where it was forward and backwards. But here's the 41 car getting his left side tires. His car's going to drop. He's going to go out of pit road. Oh, you hate to see that, David. Just spun it off of his pit box.
Yeah, coming out of your pit box there is, you're trying to get everything you can, trying to get that launch out there, and just kind of looks like you might have just got on the throttle a little bit, too aggressively there, and that rear end just kicked around and spun him around.
Well, no harm, no foul, but right now what I'm looking at is Brian Johnson in the iRacing Live timing actually taking over this first spot again. These cars that are in front of him are going to get the wave around when there's one to go. That's going to be tough for those cars, David, to do that because it is such a long track. But Brian Johnson's going to take over this race. Tom Senchek going to be second, the 15 car of Vincent Sora, 1 of Kyle Rochelle, 3rd and 4th. With Aaron Kralik in 5th. And I'm looking at Mark Whitley all the way down in 14th. Fresh tires or not, he has a climb back up to the front.
Yep, sitting in 14th spot there. And he'll have about 7 laps, 6 or 7 laps fresher tires than the cars in front of him. We'll have to see how much of a difference that really makes for him. But now, it's going to put his driving skills to the test. Normally you like to say, well, you just got to be patient and work his way back up to the field. But, we're going to have less than 19 laps to go and when we come back to green here. So, he doesn't have a whole lot of time to try and make that happen. So, he might have to, hope on some cautions to help him gain some of those spots back.
We saw some really aggressive restarts, including the very first green flag drop here tonight, David, with cars going 3-4 wide. They seem to have simmered down a little bit midway through this race, but with 19 laps to go, I think this might be the most aggressive restart we see here tonight.
Yeah, I think you're right because we just came off a pretty decent long green flag run there. So in these drivers' minds, they could be thinking, hey, that could be the last caution. And because of that, it's the time to go is now. While the cars are bunched back up, time to make those passes and be a little more aggressive is now because you don't know if another caution is going to come out.
So the 8 car going to be getting pushed by the 1 of Kyle Rochelle. The 28 car, Brian Johnson, getting pushed by Vincent Sora, who's been on a roll as of late. The 01 car of Aaron Kralik throwing his hat in that inside line with Danny Cochran on the outside of row 3. Coming out of turn 3, pace truck going to get out of the way. We'll see just who gets the jump and who gets the push here as we go green flag racing from our 7th caution.
15 gave that 28 a little bit of a bump there, but really doesn't have too big of an impact as we see Tom hanging on out there on the outside.
You see a couple of cars early on. Cedric Hunter making some moves. They drop all the way down low, but still too wide up here to the front. It looks like advantage 28. We'll see him, if he can clear the 8, check up in front of him. That's what he does. The 15 of Vincent Sora, maybe with a premature check up on the 1 car. He had to check up, Kyle did, to avoid hitting the back end of that 15 car.
Yeah, we have another caution there. Right before the caution, we see the number 8, just really getting up to that bumper of the 28 of Johnson there. So just kind of really illustrating that draft as we see the 13 involved in that caution again.
Yeah, beautiful shot there as Tom Senchek was really pushing Brian Johnson down that front stretch. We'll go ahead and take a look at a replay. I think Cedric Hunter involved. He's in the all pink car. Hard to miss here. We'll see the 49 coming down. Oh, and it's just a chain reaction right there, David.
Yeah, it's it goes back to what we talked about before we took that green flag. This is the time to go, and you saw them, 4 wide there because this is the time you got to get those positions as soon as you can. And the car in the 3rd spot there on the second car from the outside lane there, just I don't know if he got a little loose, was trying to catch it, but made contact with the car on the inside and shot for 13.
And these guys are going to have to be careful here, David. I'll never get sick of saying this. Cautions breed cautions. And this late into the race with 17 laps to go, I'm pretty sure this probably won't be our last yellow flag.
Yeah, you could be right there. And, we were talking about Mark Whitley, who started off 14th after coming down pit road. He gained 4 spots there, so if anybody is okay with seeing the cautions right now, it is that number 77 of Mark Whitney. But who doesn't want to see these cautions right now? It's going to be the 28 of Johnson and the number 8 of Tom. These guys want to go ahead and, try and battle it out and put a little distance between that 15 car and make it run for the win. So, again, just different emotions on this track. Some guys are happy to see it, other guys are not.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note, too, that with the other restarts where the 28 car is up front, he's been able to provide himself a little bit of a buffer between himself and the 2nd place car. But not that time, David. That 8 car was on the bumper of Brian Johnson.
Yeah, and I suspect we'll see that again if the 28 does get up there, that 8 is going to stick to that bumper and not let it go. And if anything, maybe try to give him a push on the straightaways and make him want to go into that corner faster than what he wants to.
So Brian Johnson, Tom Senchek going to share that front row once more. Vincent Sora 3rd, Kyle Rochelle 4th, Aaron Kralik 5th, Danny Cochran in 6th. Those guys have been battling up into the top 5 pretty much all night long. How is it going to shake out? 16 laps to go. You see the drivers that were involved in the last caution coming down pit road, getting some repairs. Might as well take tires if they're available as well to try to make sure that you're as fresh as possible.
Yeah, Jesse Thornock is up in the 7th position, gaining 9 spots so far, in this race. He had some contact earlier in the race, but recovered pretty nicely inside the top 10. And then kind of looking again at Adam Westfield, you can't talk enough about just what a job he's done all race long. He's up 19 spots.
Yeah, that is the 88 with the track racer paint scheme. Mark Whitley's going to be starting behind him in 10th. We've touched base about his story throughout the night. Nick Crawford in the 11 car. He's had a little bit of an up and down night here as well, David. He started in 5th. He currently sits 8th, but there was a time where he was outside the top 10, so he might be trying to make a move up front now.
Yeah, we talked about it earlier. Is just some guys, you're really comfortable at this track, and able to hit all your marks and stuff like that. But the further you fall back, you might be comfortable with the track, but you might be racing alongside other guys that are not as comfortable in all three turns. So he's done a really good job in just managing all that's going on around him and keeping his car clean.
Only a handful of cars off the lead lap. It ends with Cedric Hunter in 23rd. He's still down in pit road. He is good to go. He's got a little bit of damage, but he's going to make it off pit road and keep that lead lap. So that makes it 23 cars here at Pocono. That's going to be on the lead lap. Pretty impressive. I know Pocono's a big track. I know we've been spread out here a little bit, David, but to have 85%, 90% of the field still on the lead lap, pretty impressive.
Yeah, I think it says a lot about these drivers in this race, and like you said, it is a wide track. We saw you can go 4 wide here, but it is a flat track, and that makes it a little more difficult when compared to racing tracks that have high banking and more grip. So it's definitely, especially this track here, because all 3 turns they're different. The bankings are different on all 3 turns. So these guys have done a fantastic job in just really adjusting and acclimating to this track and racing around each other.
And we haven't really seen any issues through that tunnel turn, which I think was expected. It seems to be the story anytime you head to Pocono, but these drivers going 2 wide, at some point even 3 wide. Now, back to this restart, David, it's safe to say that nobody wants to win this race more than the guy that's on the outside in that 8 car, Tom Simchek.
Yeah, absolutely. Drivers don't normally need any motivation because they want to win all the time. But for the number 8, he's probably got more motivation than ever before, and I'm sure he would love to get this victory for his pal.
Now, we've seen this high side get a nice push here before. Kyle Rochelle and Danny Cochran working together on that outside line. The 28 car needs a big push from the 15 of Vincent Sora to be able to make the pass, or the clear, I should say, on Vincent Sora. But right now, I think both these lines on these restarts, it's anybody's game.
Yeah, I agree, and I think you're right. That one car of Kyle or the 15 car of Vincent could make a big impact on who gets the lead here. As we see, the 15 is much closer to the bumper of the 28 than the one is of the 8.
Yeah, and the 8 car maybe giving a little bit of slack there on the outside, making sure he's got a good view of when Brian Johnson decides to go. We see 3 wide now going into turn 1. That's the 00 of Ethan Smith. He was once in the top 3 along with that 31 car, but I think we got contact, and that 14 car is going to go around. Yes, that's going to bring out a caution most definitely. Oh, and we got more carnage behind as well. You guys see it live right there. A good 8, 9 cars involved in this caution. And there it is, David. We talked about it. We saw some aggressive restarts, but you talk about it everywhere you go. Late in the race, cautions breed cautions. These guys know they're running out of time, but unfortunately, you don't want this.
Yeah, I definitely don't want this. The biggest wreck we've had as far as number of cars involved, and we see the 01 there just really had an issue, slid up. But I think that might have created some some checkups and stuff. To see Jesse Thornock there going hard into the inside wall there, almost flipping his car over. But unfortunately, it pushes him back right inside the track there, and looks like a lot of those cars missed him and then got collected further up.
The 41 car and I think the 5 car of Dakota really missing. No, it looks like the 41s actually had damage, but yeah, you're right. There's some crashing even in front of that. The 11 car here, the 14 takes all the attention. He smacked the wall there hard, but as we stay on board with the 11 car, David, he gets a little bit loose, hits the wall, and this is where the carnage was.
Yeah, I did just getting collected in it, and unfortunately, a bunch of cars involved in this. And I don't know if you saw this, but Mark Whitley, we talked about him having to pit earlier. He was around these cars that were wrecking, So fortunately for him, he was able to get by without any damage. But these guys not so lucky. Hopefully, a lot of them still have their fast repairs and be able to, get their car back and get it fixed, and get back on the track.
Yeah, Max Foner, Mark Whitley, Adam Westfield, all players that were around that incident there, all making it through, along with Danny Cochran there in 7th. But you have to think some of those drivers already using their quick repair. Their race might be done. We might start. I just hats off to these guys. 22 cars on lead lap, and they went out and did that. And obviously, that's not going to be the case anymore. But and not to downplay those guys, but fortunately, all the hitters that were up front, David, they're still there. They're still battling it out for the win.
Yep, and a little surprised, to be honest with you, that Mark Whitley didn't come down pit road there, maybe get some more tires on there, only because of the number of the cars behind him that had to pit because of damage. He wouldn't have lost that many positions, maybe 2 or 3 positions if he would have had pitted there to get those fresher tires. So maybe an opportunity lost there, for Mark Whitley.
Yeah, and we'll see if anybody comes down 4 tires. We could be out of tires for these drivers, which may lead into a decision like that for Mark Whitley. But I would 100% agree. If there were tires on the table there, you're absolutely right. He's on the tail end of this top 10 right now. If he were to come down, maybe he loses 3 or 4 spots, but he's going to be able to gain those back probably on the first lap. And be able to make his charge back up to the front. We see a lot of cars: James Trammell, Cedric Hunter, Jonathan Pittman, Dakota Moniz, Maurice Gamillion, all those drivers down pit road. We talked about some drivers that have struggled here tonight, including that 13 of Cedric Hunter, and not to point the blame to him by any means, but when you struggle at a track like this and you're in the back of the pack, you tend to get caught up in those kind of wrecks.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been in that seat many a time. If you again, it's about being comfortable at a track, and if there's an area that you struggle in, other drivers are struggling in some of these areas as well. And if both of you struggle in the same area, it could set up the perfect recipe, for cautions and stuff. So, we got coming, I think, to 11 laps left. So we're going to be re-racking this field again and restacking them, going with another restart. And you mentioned it earlier, cautions breed cautions, and the aggression level as these laps continue to tick off, it's going to continue to rise. So we might not be done with these caution flags.
Yeah, and this is when the race control steps in. The league admins may step in and say, okay, guys, we've had a pretty good race here tonight. Let's not let this end on an ugly note. Let's regroup. As you said, let's re-rack, and let's have a strong finish to this race. As these guys get set side by side, that usually means 1 to go. So we should take the green flag with just 10 laps to go here at Pocono, and what has been a phenomenal race here tonight. We've had action throughout the entire field, but honestly, David, there's been some really, really good racing up there for that top spot between Johnson, Senchak, Rochelle.
Yeah, they've been the class of the field, pretty much all race long, and so I expect us to see some really good finishes here, as we continue to tick these laps off. But I want to mention just the recovery for Ethan Smith. We saw him, earlier. He kind of fell back quite a few spots, and now he's working his way back up inside the top 5. So good recovery by him. We'll have to see if he's able to gain a few more and bring it home inside that top 5.
Yeah, you really read my mind on that. That's where I was going to swing my next direction there. I was going to bring up, too, he was working so well with the 31 car earlier in the race. I do not see 31 out there into this pack right now, so he might be missing that drafting partner right now. But, yeah, you're absolutely right. Ethan Smith in the 00 car, good rebounds here. He's going to be on that inside line, 3 rows back from the leader, Brian Johnson. The pace truck off at least one more time here tonight, and we'll see. You see Rochelle already on the back bumper of the 8 car.
Yep, back to the bumper, and you've seen these guys go ahead and make contact. The 8 and the 28 running side by side. We see the 15 blocking that 00 car there. So again, 3 wide, a couple of rows back behind them. So the aggression level is definitely up as we go into turn 1.
Yeah, the 15, Vincent Sora, did throw a pretty hard block on the 00, but I don't think the 00 would have had the run that he might have thought that he had when they came out of turn 1. You see 77 now dropping behind the 88 of Westfield, excuse me. Sorry about that. But as these guys get single file, that 8 car just had the restart of the night. He got pushed by the 1 of Kyle Rochelle as the 28 and the 15 tried working together, but it was the 8 car and the 1 who's now on the inside of Johnson, who got a little bit loose, pushes him up to the track. What a restart for Tom Senchek.
Yeah, as we see Rochelle in the 28, battling for second place, in the 15 diving on the inside after getting that run, and now going 3 wide here to try to get that second place spot as Mark Whitley dives below the 00 and clears him for another position.
So the 1 and the 28. Oh, we got a car on the infield. Oh, all 4 tires were off the ground there. Not too sure who that was, but he was able to save it, so no need to rush back to that. The 00 and the 01 car making contact through the tunnel turn. He holds onto it now. The 77 of Mark Whitley on the inside of the 01. So these drivers really starting to push it here. It's just 9 laps to go.
Yeah, as we see the 1 car gets on the apron and into the 28, pushing him into the wall.
Yeah, and I think we'll stay green on that. So a tough break for the 28 of Brian Johnson, who got sent up out of turn 3 and set up into the wall. And right now, Brian Johnson has to be fuming. He dominated the race. The 00 car continues to bang doors. Now he's into the 1 car of Kyle Rochelle.
Yeah, I tell you, that 00 there looks like got a little bit tight and drifted up. Close contact to the number 1 car there, but both of them were able to save it and continue on. As we see Tom just continue to lead the pack here as we have another caution.
Oh, the 10th caution of the night. Now that is going to save Brian Johnson there, David, because I think it's safe to say he still has that fast repair in his pocket. He's going to be able to use it. These guys are going to be able to come down and get fresh time. That just saved the 28's race.
Yeah, definitely unfortunate for him. He's going to have to come down pit road and use that fast repair, and we'll see where he cycles out. But by the time we come back to green flag, we'll have less than 5 laps to go. So it's probably still going to be a tall order for him to work his way back up front. So we'll see how that plays out for him. But the 1 car there, Rochelle, just doing a fantastic job. And we're going to be in for a heck of a finish the way these guys are racing, as hard as they're racing right now with only a handful of laps to go.
Yeah, about 4 or 5 cars wrapped up into this last caution. Alex Light, Mike Kaczynski, Ry Lewis, and Danny Cochran all involved out of the tunnel turn. So as we talked about not struggling through turn 2, it strikes late in the race.
Yep, not sure what happened there with the 2. It's almost like he just missed the turn there, but then the 3, gets involved in it, and cars just bouncing off each other. Late caution. Some of these guys are probably going to be out of fast repair as we see the 30 just plowing into the rear end of that number 3 car.
ARCA break weekly there at NAISCC Cup Series. As we see them continuing to struggle to get back on track. A tough break for the 3 car. We know his fast repair has been used. So unfortunately, his night's probably done. The car that was in front of him, I think, took the tow. So unfortunate right now for some of these drivers. You see them right there in that view, all coming down pit road. Half of them, David, as you said earlier, looking like tour mods.
Yeah, you had a rough day when your car looks like a modified, coming on a super speedway or a track like this. It just definitely goes to show when you get close racing or something like that, even though it's a wide track, it's still a difficult track to maneuver around, and so easy just to either to get loose in the apron or just overdrive the corner and the car gets tight and just drift up into somebody. So there'll be some guys like Tom that are pretty happy with their performance, and there's going to be some other guys that definitely would have liked to see the race go differently for them.
Now, I'm not sure. I'm looking at the 28 car of Brian Johnson. He's coming down pit road right now. What happened to his front end? When we saw what happened to him, David, it looked like he had just hit the wall, lost some track position, was able to regain control. But here he is coming down pit road. and his whole front bumper is tore off that car.
That's a great question. I saw the same thing you did, and you know, you made contact with the side wall, the outside wall, so damage on the right side of the car. So I'm not quite sure what caused the damage to his nose, to where it just completely disappeared.
Yeah, nonetheless, caught back up though. You guys see it on the broadcast. He did have the fast repair. So he is back out of the track. He's got tires. He's got a brand new car. It's going to be interesting to see where he starts on the restart. It looks like back there in that 13th spot, David. Now, 6 laps to go at the majority of tracks. You wouldn't think that'd be a whole lot of time, but we've talked about it all night long. It's a 2.5 mile track, and starting 13th with fresh tires, Brian Johnson has a realistic chance of getting back into this race.
Yeah, I think the challenge that he might have is that these cars that are going to be in front of him, his closing speed it's going to be it's going to be much faster than theirs, and he's going to be able to handle the corners better. So he's going to really have to be cautious of being able to maneuver his cars into those openings, and avoid those cars that he's catching up to. So it's he's got the advantage of the fresh tires, but at the same standpoint, he's got to be able to maneuver his car around the other cars and make it clean. But that at the same standpoint, do it as quickly as possible. Not going to have a lot of laps left to do it.
Yeah, and you hope the guys, of course, when you're out there racing, you're not too keen of giving up spots and making it easier for somebody. But when you're in Johnson's spot, you're kind of hoping, hey guys, I've been leading the race the majority of the night. But more importantly, I have those fresh tires. You're not going to be able to outrace me here for the first 3 or 4 laps. I'm not saying lay down for me, but can you just get the heck out of my way?
Yeah, exactly. I call them gentleman drivers. That's what he's hoping he's going to be around. Just guys that understand the situation and understand that he's got fresher tires and not hold them up too much. Every driver wants to pick up that position and stuff, but when you have somebody that's on fresh tires, going to be much faster than you. Really doesn't do you any good to try and hold them off, because of the fact that you could have such a run and you could make a situation where you ruin your day as well as his.
So a little bit of an easier restart for Tom Senchek here. He's going to be on the inside of row 1. David, he's been hustling on the outside, but guess what? He's bringing that one car of Kyle Rochelle with him. They're both going to be on the inside. They've both been working really well on these restarts. Yeah,
and it's an interesting call. We'll see if it's a game-changing moment for him to go on the inside here. But he decided to pick his team on this restart, which is going to be the number 1 car, and see if it plays out for him. It looks like they've kind of delayed the restart here.
Yeah, it looks like we're going to extend this caution, which means we're going to go transition to a green, white, checkered flag. I'm not too sure if that was the reasoning behind this. It would make sense to do so, but I think it's more so cars that were coming off pit road, David. They want to make sure this is such a crucial time in the race. They didn't want any of these drivers who are coming off pit road to get involved in there, so I think that's the right call by extending this caution a lap.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it was the right call for that purpose there. But just going to set up for having a really good finish here. So, pull those belts one more time, drivers, because it's going to be interesting in those cockpits to watch these guys battle out. Won't be surprised to see 3 or 4 wide, going into these corners and stuff. As this is the last one. This is going to be, could be their last opportunity to gain their spots.
Yeah, that's right. And for everybody watching at home, you may or may not know, but on a green, white, checkered flag, if you don't hit that white flag, a caution will come out. But David, once the white flag drops, this race does become official regardless of what happens.
Yeah, let's keep an eye on that number 8 car. How badly he wants to win more tonight than probably any other night. But some of these other drivers got other plans too, so we'll see how it goes for him. But it'll be an interesting restart.
Will the one car of Kyle Rochelle, who's been doing a phenomenal job pushing the 8 on these restarts, decide to stay behind him, not fight him that much going through the green, white, checkered, or has he sat behind enough? He's got the 77 of Mark Whitley, who's going to be pushing him on the inside as well. Will Kyle Rochelle decide to open it up and make a move on the 8 car. Right now, you see him right there on the bumper, giving him a little bit of a push. The 15 car on the outside getting pushed by the 00. And David, the 8 car checked up a little bit there in front of Vincent.
Yeah, it definitely did. Different restart for him than what he's done in the past. So changing his strategy up a little bit, and it worked out for him to get him in the lead and keep the lead going into turn 1. But the 15 still hanging on strong on the outside.
Yeah, and the 1 car, unfortunately, going to fall back to 3rd because of that 8 car checking up. He kind of lost that draft. But here comes the 15 of Vincent Sora through the tunnel turn. Behind the 8 car, the leader, Tom Senchek. You know the story. Racing with the heavy heart here tonight. Really wants this race. You see the TRASH paint scheme on the back. Racing for his friend. Racing for his family.
You know, it looks like that 15 is better than Tom for the tunnel turn. But Tom was better than the 15 on that turn 3. But as we see here, is 15 closing that gap on that long straightaway and coming to turn 1. Gives him a little bit of bump going into turn 1 here.
And if the 8 car gets a good enough run here, we might see him drop a little bit, try to break the draft of the 15. We'll see if he decides to stay up high or if he decides to go that route. You see him right there. Looks like he's just going to stick with it. He's going to pull the 15 along with him down this stretch into the tunnel turn.
You know, it's interesting. You just mentioned something, and it's not something we've seen so far. And usually on this track here, what you see is you'll see the leader when we get this close to the end of the race, where they try to break the draft by, what we call snaking down the track, just to try and break that draft. We haven't seen that at all, in this race so far. Maybe because he hasn't needed it.
Well, now we see it right there as we speak. That's the snaking we're talking about. As we take the white flag, this race now does become official. Tom Senchek racing down into turn 1, trying to hold off the 15 of Vincent Sora. Everybody behind them back far enough. I don't think it's going to matter. You see the 1 car on the inside of the 77 of Mark Whitley. That's the race for 3rd. But right now, all focus on the 8 car racing for the win. There's the snaking, going down low, going back up high. That breaks the draft from the 15.
Yeah, we're coming into the turn number 2 here, and just did a fantastic job in keeping pace and keeping that 15 behind him. But coming into turn 3, we'll see how the 15 does. If he's able to close the gap and make a run, he takes a deep dive going into the turn number 3. Can he make it stick? Looks like he does. He's going to be at that right corner or left corner panel there coming up the turn.
And out of turn 4, it's the high side. The 8 car winning the race by a bumper to the 15 of Vincent Sora. Tom Senchek came in tonight with a mission. The mission has been accomplished. Good run in that 8 car. Good race, my friend Tom Senchek. 0.8. You see it in the relative. David coming into turn 3. The 15 maybe diving just a little bit too hard, and even though it looked like he had gained the momentum out of the corner exit, it was Tom Senchek who had the advantage.
Yeah, you got to give your hats off to Vincent there in the 15 car. Did everything he could to try and get to that number 8 inside and use the side draft to slow him down, but Tom just way too strong coming off that turn 3 and was able to hold off enough of them to get that win. So can't imagine the emotions that Tom is experiencing right now, but man, what a great race by him to be able to pull out this victory, and I'm sure he's got to be so excited.
And he's going to show us all just how excited and happy he is as he takes off doing some donuts right there on the front stretch. Mark Whitley, David, you pointed out he was on the rebound. He was bouncing back from some early race troubles. He sits on the podium in 3rd. Kyle Rochelle with what might go down as a disappointing race for him, as he was once the race leader. He was up there racing with Brian Johnson and Tom Senchek all night long. He falls outside of the top 3 in 4th. Nick Crawford 5th. Max Foner 6th. Ethan Smith 7th. And Brian Johnson, who looked to be dominating this race all night long, drops all the way down to 8th.
Yeah, and you gotta give your hats off to Adam Westfield as well. I mean, he finished in the top 10 and gained 18 spots in this race. So great race for him. I'm sure he would have loved to been up there and contending for the win, but still to be able to move up 18 spots at this track here and bring that car in the top 10 spot, just a great job for him.
As the 8 car of Tom Senchek continues to celebrate, we're going to take a very, very short commercial break. We'll gather up the podium drivers, and we'll be back with interviews. We are back for pre or post race interviews. Of course, Tom Semchek, we left on celebrating tonight's victory. Vincent Sora, P2, and Mark Whitley in third. We're going to bring in that driver of the 77 Chevrolet, Mark Whitley. Mark, it's Brandon up into the broadcast booth. You got a copy?
Gotcha.
You started here tonight in third and you finish in third, but that doesn't tell the whole story here. A little bit of a back and forth for you here tonight. Talk to us a little bit about Pocono and storming back up to the front to be able to finish on the podium.
Yeah, it was an interesting night. Didn't get a lot of practices. Me and my dad went to like a local dirt track. I wasn't even sure I was going to get back for the race. Walked in the door about 15 minutes before it started and got about 3 or 4 laps of practice, and surprisingly was able to kind of pick it up pretty quick. And I was just trying to get the feel for the car, and that first lap or two was kind of crazy between, I think Kyle, he was a little sleeping on the start, and I about ran over him, and we were 3-4 wide, and then they didn't get off the tunnel turn, and I went 4 wide and had to like almost stop to make sure we made a corner. And I think Vincent got into me and won the next lap, and it was just the whole first 15, 20 laps of that race was just a blur, and it was crazy. And I was just trying to make sure the car didn't get too much damage, and eventually we would just kind of work our way back up there. And on that last pretty long green flag run we had, I was initially going to try to short pit and try to jump some of them guys, but then Brian pitted earlier than I thought he would. So I was like, well, I'm just going to run it up, just run it long. And, best case scenario, either I can run them down with fresher tires or the caution comes out. And I was almost going to pit the lap the caution came out, and I was like, I'll go one more. And then I went past pit road and the caution came out. So it's worked out that I saved out that extra lap. But those fresher tires, everybody was on 4, 5, 6 lap tires, and they were hooking up pretty good. But then we kept getting cautions, and they put heat cycles on the tires. And by the time I was able to actually up there, the tires were pretty much about even with everybody else. And it was just about, trying to just get everything you can get. And all these guys are tough to race with. I mean, any one in the top 10 pretty much can win a race on any given night. So it's not easy pickings, and had to fight Kyle and I think it was Nick for the last couple laps to make sure I got in the third, and it worked all out. Harpoon Chevrolet was probably a little worse for wear, but it came home third, and that's all that really matters.
Mark Whitley finishing P3 here at Pocono. Before we let you go, any special thanks?
Yeah, just give a shout out Harpoon Designs. He designs all my cars. It's an awesome painter. If y'all looking for one, you check him out. He's on Trading Paints, or if you want some custom one, just email him. He'll shoot you a awesome paint scheme. He always does. And wonderful shout out to my family. They're always tuning in, and just y'all putting on an awesome broadcast. It should be fun to go back and watch, because I know it was pretty hectic and pretty exciting from the car. So I can only imagine what it was like to y'all.
All righty. Thank you, Mark. That was third place driver, Mark Whitley. I'm going to throw it over to my broadcasting partner, David Medina, as he pulls in Vincent Sora.
Vincent, Dave Medina up here in the booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, I hear you, buddy.
Hey, man, congratulations on that P2 finish, up 9 spots. Walk us through the race for you.
Pretty crazy. Didn't like the qualifying spot that I got, but I knew I had really, really good long run speed. This thing was fast on the long run. Problem was getting them. We eventually found our ways up there, though. Really happy with how that went. Got some stage points there just coming out of the final corner, coming to the stage. Happy about that. Then we got some long runs, which I was pretty appreciative of. Showed that I was really fast there, too. Then we got some cautions at the end, and Tom and I went back to our old ways from seasons 1 and 2 and battled it out to the finish. Great finish, photo finish. Second one I've been in this week. Unfortunately, didn't come out on top on either of them, but we'll take P2 gladly, especially to Tom. I know he really wanted to win this one, and I'm super happy for him.
We were watching you the last couple of laps there, and through the tunnel turn, looked like you were better on the tunnel turn than Tom, and then Tom was a little bit better than you on the turn 3 exit there. But on the last lap there, going in the turn 3, looks like you were kind of setting up something there to try and make a pass for the win there. Kind of walk us through what you were trying to set up there.
Yeah, I knew my turn 3 was really good if I just had the right opportunity. And there he was doing a good arc to try to get a great straight exit, and I just kind of took advantage of it and sent it up the inside of him. And I knew I could probably get him a little loose if I got onto his left rear, and I did. And I went for the side draft, pulled him back just a little bit, but unfortunately it wasn't enough. The start and finish was just a little ways down the track. I maybe would have had it, but unfortunately it's not.
Yeah, well, what a great race. You guys put on a heck of a show and just missed it, but what a heck of an effort you put out there. So congratulations on your P2 finish there. Any shout outs you want to give?
Oh, yeah, for sure. First and foremost, Tom Sinchak, great to see you back in victory lane. Everybody in the league, you guys for broadcasting, all of our wonderful sponsors that make this show happen, and Danny Cochran, Hot Lap Designs, for making the beautiful paint schemes.
All right, buddy. Once again, congratulations, and we'll see you next week.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks, Vincent. And seriously, all the stories aside, that a heck of a run by the 15 of Vincent Sora. But right now, bringing in race winner Tom Senchek in the 8. Tom, we saw the paint scheme. We took a moment of silence there after stage 1. I know you were racing with a heavy heart here tonight for your dear friend. What does it mean for you to be able to use a platform like iRacing to be able to get through a hard time like this, and also to go out there and Robert, I apologize, but just be able to kick ass on a night like this?
Yeah, it's a storybook ending in my eyes. Yeah, his name was John Mondelli. We called him Goop. I still don't even know why his nickname was Goop, but he was beloved in the New Jersey dirt racing community. I mean, really beloved. Everybody knew him around town. Everybody knew him around up in New Jersey. So, I mean, I was hoping to win. I'm glad that I won. I'm ecstatic that I won. If there was one race other than the final championship race to win, I'm glad it was this one, especially with the memorial. I really, really appreciate you guys doing that. It really meant a lot. I know a lot of his friends tuned in tonight. Hoping you guys got a huge spike in viewers, because we let somebody know. My uncle, who was his best friend, is tuning in with all of his friends. A lot of friends and family were tuning in to watch this, and I'm so happy I was able to pull that off and get a win for him.
Tom, Dave Medina up here in the booth with Mr. Robinson, and just want to say, man, first of all, congratulations on that win. You just had a great start. You were the fastest in practice, and you started P3, and come home and bring the victory here. But just kind of walk us through this last turn. Coming off turn 3 there, battling Vincent there. What was your mindset on trying to make sure that you were able to keep him behind you?
My mindset is Vince is one of the fastest drivers in the entire league, and I could not give him the outside. So I took the opportunity with the little bit of gap that I took on him in the tunnel turn, because I think I made it through. He made it through better than the tunnel turn almost every lap except that last one. So I had a little bit of a gap where I wanted to do my send check super arc is what they call it. So I get a long straightaway run because I didn't want to give him the outside because the outside is just brutal, especially if he gets a side draft. So I wanted to give him the inside, but I did not expect him to do what he did. I mean, that just goes to show just how impressive he is on the track, especially not to even get into me and dive it that deep because, I mean, we're not on fresh tires. For him to make that stick and put his tires on the rumble strip like that was absolutely insane. And I'm glad that I won, and I'm glad that he came in second because we put on a hell of a show.
Yeah, absolutely, and just a great job by you all race long, keeping that car up front. And yeah, you saw and said the same thing that we were seeing in the race. You know, that tunnel turn, he was better than you were, but you were consistently better than he was on that exit. But he definitely made it stick. But you did a great job off that exit there, and able to hold off for the win. So congratulations.
Really appreciate it, guys. Really appreciate it. Oh man.
Yeah, yeah, Tom, just a phenomenal race there with Rochelle, Sora, Brian Johnson there. Congratulations again on the win. Is there anybody? Obviously, we went over the tough stuff, but on a positive note, is there anybody you'd like to thank, shout out, and who did your paint here tonight? Who did the memorial paint scheme?
I do all mine. I mean, if you see the picture that you guys put up at the stage break, I tried to match it as close as possible to what he ran. But yeah, I'd like to thank the whole RS Racing team. I'd like to thank everybody up front for driving clean. I'd like to thank Vince for not turning me right there at the line. Shout out to everybody. My uncle Mike, one of Goop's best friends. Every one of his friends watching. My brother, my girlfriend, everybody that's you guys for broadcasting, especially you guys for doing that at the stage break. That was class act.
All right, Tom, congratulations, and have a good night. Celebrate all weekend long, and we'll talk to you next time.
Thank you, buddy.
All righty, as we begin to close this race, of course, I apologize to anybody at home dropping the A word there, and of course, we don't normally cuss here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting, but such an emotional night. Hopefully, our producer forgives me here on that one. But as we go on the official results there, David, we know the top three: Senchek, Sora, Whitley. Unfortunately, Rochelle dropping out of that to fourth. What sticks out for you here tonight as far as either a positive finish, a negative finish, and then just your thoughts overall?
Yeah, we definitely had some guys that were able to move up and get some really good finishes. You know, being able to see Ethan Smith, be able to bring home seventh position after having some issues earlier on and falling back. So great job by him to continue to fight and get back up there. And then you got to look at the the number 28, Brian Johnson, the guy that was leading the race and was really one of the cars to beat all race long until you had that contact with another driver and had some damage there. So I'm sure that's a heartbreak for him. I'm sure he felt that he had something to to bring home in the victory lane, and it just didn't turn out for him in this race.
All righty, a good closing there, David. It's been a pleasure, as we always do here to wrap up coverage. We're going to throw it over to our producer, but before we do that, for David Medina, I'm Brandon Robinson. Week 5 NAISCC Cup Series. Robert, it's all yours.
All right, gentlemen. As I'm not sure, did you guys go through the final results?
Yeah.
Oh, you did? Okay, my bad. I was taking care of chat, so I do apologize if anybody goes back and watches this replay. We have a spammer in chat, and it's been spamming all night. So, but you see the unofficial results. But yeah, with that being said, congratulations to Tom and family. Get himself back in victory lane. That it's been a long waited actually. For him just to get back into victory lane. It's been since last season. So it's good to see him finally get back into victory lane. Like I said here at Pocono International Speedway with a heavy heart, but you carry on that momentum until next week. He's gonna be riding high all week here, and I'm sure the friends and family and everybody out there has thoughts and prayers to everybody out there for that side of the family. that knew him. We do send our condolence here at Freaky Fast Broadcasting. The booth and the team here at Freaky Fast sends our condolence to them. But like I said, congratulations to the top 3 of Tom Simchak, Vincent Sora, Mark Whitley. It's going to round out your top 3 here at Pocono International Speedway. So, man, it's been a great race to watch here. Some tough battling. We've seen some cars from the back go to the front, and we've seen some cars from the front go to the back. But these guys put on this kind of show week in and week out. But with that being said, we're going to get ready to sign off here at Freaky Fast Broadcasting. Our next televised broadcast will be tomorrow night with Sim Racing Unleashed, as we got Zach Hall and David Medina that called the race here tonight. It's going to be calling all the action tomorrow night at 7:50 with Sim Racing Unleashed. So if nobody's busy, come on out tomorrow night and give us a shout out, give us a like, give us a share, give us a follow. And also, if you're tuning in here tonight live or go back and watch this replay, make sure that you give us a like and you share it to your favorite social media platform of your choosing. It doesn't matter. But with that being said, here at Freaky Fast Broadcasting, like we always like to say to everybody out there, have a great Saturday. Be safe Sunday. We'll catch you Sunday night. If not, we'll see you Monday night. Until then, God bless everybody. We love you all. Peace out.